on, and I would like to open the Georgetown Planning Board, March 9th, 2016 Planning Board meeting, Memorial Town Hall, third floor. It's 7:05. And with opening, just two things very quickly. If there's anyone here, John, correct me if I'm wrong, if there's anyone here for Chaplain Hills, Chaplain Hills is going to be continued to April 27th. So there's nothing for you to be gained by sitting here, and I wanted to let you know that so you can get home.
All right, thank you.
The other, for just the board, I'm gonna be giving these to Andrea, and then you'll all get them in your next packet. Larry Graham had put in the mail to me, which was interesting, the Ipswich stormwater bylaw that they had to help us with our new revisions. So I'm just gonna pass that on to Andrea, and you'll see all that coming up. And then also there was an email with regards to Chaplain Hill. We'll get to that later, from a Tyrus Cobb, which is not in your packets for tonight, but would be in the next meeting that we go to. So I was just taking care of a little business there. Oh, where is he?
Andrea,
Okay.
I asked her to grab something for me. She'll be right back.
Okay. So, with that, with regards to the agenda, approval of minutes, we do not have any. With regards to town planner comments, obviously, we do not have any. Correspondence, there are 4 items, and each of those items will come up in the public hearings, so we can go over them at that point. The vouchers, we have, I think, 1 voucher this evening.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept and pay a voucher to the tune of $150 to New Hampshire Municipal Association for the purpose of advertising for a town planner.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the advertising for the town planner, appropriation number 11751 in the amount of $150. Any discussion?
I have a question, and is that how many times is this one ad being placed? Is it a one-time shot? How does this work?
I don't know. I know that Mike Farrell is the one that's responsible for it,
Okay.
so I don't have the answer to that. But is it with regards to getting it, the bill every time? for
Are we gonna get
$150?
it, are we gonna get it every time? Is this the privilege of posting it $150 for one day?
Yeah, yeah. Well, we'll find out. Let's find out the answer to that.
Cool.
Anyone else?
Is this the sole advertisement, you know? It's a New Hampshire Municipal Association. I would think I don't know, I'm sure there are other, I'm hoping there are other advertisements. Something a tad more local,
Yeah, I have a
general
hunch.
circulation.
You'd like to think that's the case, Harry. I think what we have before us is just this one item to approve, and if there are other ones, we'll get those. So that's a
Well,
different question.
Well, yeah, maybe we can deal with that later.
Yeah.
Any idea why it's New Hampshire and,
You're asking me, I didn't do this. Again, Mike Farrell is the one that put this together, so I don't know the answer. I suspect because southern New Hampshire is a close pull to Georgetown, and it would make sense to go after professionals in that region as well as Massachusetts. It makes sense to me, but I can't speak for him.
I would think we'd want someone that was familiar with Massachusetts law for planning and zoning.
I don't wanna go off in this discussion, that a professional town planner, if you get one from local that knows your particular ordinance, fantastic. They come from all over the region professionally. They're trained to learn and adapt to whatever town they go to. That's their training, so I wouldn't be concerned about that. Again, on this invoice, Any questions, Elliot, on this invoice? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all opposed?
Abstain.
Abstain.
Do we have a copy of the ad?
Harry, I tell
Or
you
is it the
what,
same
I
one as the-
delegate you to connect with Mike Farrell and find out everything about that, the ad, okay? Would you like to do that?
What I would like to do is to appoint a subcommittee of the board. And I'll make.
At that
I'd
point-
say I'll make a motion,
At
but
that point in time, when it's ready for a subcommittee, but if you wanna find out about the ad and you want this information, I'm suggesting that you find out for Bob. We don't have a town planner. It would help us out a lot if you took on these questions that you're asking to find out the answer.
I find it a little disturbing that we don't have the answer. And we've been in the process for 2 meetings now.
Do you wanna find out the answers, or are you just gonna keep
I
asking
want the
questions?
board to know the answers, and I don't feel as though we're involved in the process in
So you
any
wanna
way.
set up a whole subcommittee and regular
that-
meetings to find out about this advertisement?
No, I would like to
Sorry?
replicate the process
That's
that
just
we
my
got Howard by.
I think it's a great idea, but we're dealing with the ad right now.
Well, it's done.
Yeah.
You voted.
Yeah, and you abstain from approving the, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, all right. Boy, if that's the start to this meeting, we're gonna have a hell of a
I'll be
meeting
here all
tonight,
night.
everybody. We're gonna go to, public hearings. Andrea, we just put the, voucher on your table that was signed. And, there was also a document that Larry Graham had sent to me in the mail that I put on your packet, and now you can package up and send out the next packets that go up for the next meeting, okay? Public hearing, okay, public hearing, Healthy Farms is first, we have a preliminary subdivision, Chaplain Hill second, and then Palmer Lane is third. So we're gonna go to the Healthy Farms, public hearing. Let's see, before we get going, in order to help Andrea with the notes to this particular public hearing and the conditions that we're doing, she's gonna be taking notes, but it would be really helpful if somebody on this board would take additional notes on the conditions that we're doing. Would you be willing to do that?
Yeah, I probably can type
That'd be-
faster than anybody can, right?
That's-
I guess so.
That would be fantastic, cause then that combined with what she has should get us pretty close to the real deal.
Sounds
at the
great.
end. Okay, thanks, Matt. Okay, so before we go to the applicant. No problem, no. Before we go to the applicant, and get the process going, I just wanted to check in with the board, and it's not a straw vote, but it's just, is the board, pretty much comfortable with where we're going with the conditions, and that this is generally, putting the conditions on and leaning towards an approval? If there's a major roadblock, it's better to know it now than getting into all of this, and so it's just a sense of the board before we get going here, that seems like we're all on the same page. Okay, so with that, what I'd like to do is go to the applicant for you guys.
Thank you,
Evening.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
And would like to try to, if possible,
Would you like a motion to
keep-
reopen the continuation
keep-
of the
yeah,
hearing?
yeah, if possible, keep it to 10 minutes if you can. I don't think there's all that much to go over, and then we'll go to the public for 3 minutes each. And then we'll bring it back to the board and go over the conditions. So with that, can I get the?
I'd like to make a motion to reopen the public hearing for the special permit for Healthy Farms medical marijuana, continued from, what was our last meeting? What was our last meeting? There were no minutes.
February 24th. I believe.
24th,
Was it the
February
24th?
24th.
27th,
22nd?
24th.
So it's down here.
Second.
Okay, motion has been made and it's been seconded to open the continued public hearing for Healthy Farms from the February 24th, 2016 meeting. Any discussion? No discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Great, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, we appreciate being back. Valerio Romano, attorney for Healthy Farms. With me are Nat Averill and Paul Overgag, founders of Healthy Farms, and Anthony Capchetti from Hayes Engineering. Since our last meeting, we have received a correspondence with a proposed granting of the special permit. I don't know if really we should get into that yet. I'll take the board's direction as to whether we want to talk about that. We also, since the last meeting on March 2nd, had supplied the board with some additional information. I figure that's probably what we should be talking about.
yes, please.
Okay, great. So this is largely actually an engineering, so I'm probably going to pass it off to Tony just to do the bulk of the discussion.
There were a handful of items that came up.
Yeah, it should be in the packet.
Oh, and the supplemental,
No, nope, it was in the regular packet.
right?
I have another copy if you need it, Mr. Luckily.
I'm sure it's here somewhere,
It was
before or after the draft.
after the draft.
Unlike our previous responses, it's only 2 pages.
Yeah, it's not, we're not,
It's not 200.
it's not 2 inches thick here. Yeah.
No wonder we did it.
Just a handful of outstanding items. Mr. Graham brought up that we should just seek clarification from Mass DOT, and we don't have any problem doing that. The pavement on site, as we discussed at the last meeting, we just wanted to reiterate, we're open to crack sealing and seal coating, and working with Mr. Graham on making sure that the pavement is in passable condition for opening, and then evaluating once we're up and running, replacing what needs to be done. Discrepancies in the areas and parking, should the board issue a decision, that's usually something that can be conditioned, and we'll issue final Mylar plans. Same with the lighting plan, we've taken into account the dark sky compliant and the lighting ordinance that doesn't allow any overcast across the property line. Elevation of the base of the riprap. We provide the elevation and we'll revise the final plans accordingly. The hardwood mulch within the rain gardens, we're gonna remove the mulch as specified and go with bare soil, which is our understanding what DEP's leaning towards in their specifications. Again, the lighting plan, I've addressed, and proof of insurance, we provided a letter showing both the building owner and the operator's liability insurance.
Pretty straightforward.
So, oh, sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Please.
You know, and so we'll probably defer to the board how to handle it, and I understood from the early comments that later on we'll get to a further discussion of the proposed conditions.
Yep.
And we didn't really have any significant pushback or anything, but we had we were hoping to engage a little bit in that conversation if we could.
Could you just, without getting into dialogue, could you just share with us the ones you had some questions about, and we'll just take that information and then we'll go to the public.
Absolutely. So, so without getting into specifics, and I don't want this to make it sound like we're objecting to these conditions as much as just seeking sort of clarification so we can know how this moves forward. Primarily, number 5, sorry, on page 3 of 9, in the special conditions, number 5. We wanted just a little bit of clarification on number 6. Number 7. Well, no, but I think he didn't want me to. He just wants me to call out the numbers that we're gonna be discussing. Yeah. Number 7, number 8. Just a little bit of clarification again on number 9. And then, number 12. And then, number 17. And potentially some clarification on 15, although I don't think we need it. And 17 is really more for clarification as well. It's just for us to understand a couple things about the
Yep.
direction so we can make our plans as we move forward.
Okay.
If I can, just for the notes, there's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12, and 17.
Yes, you might throw 15 in there as well, Mr. Martin.
Not 14?
What's that? No. And I assure you that there's not a lot to most of those. It was just when we sat down and talked about it, we didn't understand a couple
I'm
things.
thankful that you guys had an opportunity to take a look at this beforehand.
Thanks for sending it
and
to us,
well,
really.
and thank Andrea for that.
I think I did via an email also. I was,
Okay,
You always do.
so,
thank you.
okay, so, so with that, what I'd like to do is, go to the public, and if there is anything, Andrea, who from the public came in and also has had a copy of the draft decision?
The abutters, Attorney Conley.
Okay, and so Mr. Conley has that, so you've had that beforehand, like
Yeah.
these folks. Okay, great. So hopefully, if Mr. Conley has any comments, they can be specific. And I guess what we'd like to do is go to the public now.
Sure.
And if anyone does want to speak from the public, you know, I'd like to give them 3 minutes each, and we'll take it from there. Looks like it's just you.
Out of my way. Good evening. For the record, I'm John Conley. I have an office at North Andover, and I represent the abutters. First of all, I've been here never been here before until this one event. And I want to thank you for the way you conduct your hearings. Very solid, and I want to thank you for listening to me. And I can tell by what's here that some of what we had to say, was taken to heart, and we appreciate that. I should congratulate the proponents. I mean, this is a special permit process. I've been through them, and I'd have to say that they've presented a very good package. And that said, I do have some issues I'd like to reinforce a little bit. And I understand what the standard is that you people have to meet. You've got a bylaw that you have to follow. If you don't follow it, and they take it to see somebody else, someplace else, then you're gonna lose control over it. So I get the whole process. And I applaud the way you handled it.
And would it be possible not to go over necessarily what was presented last time?
Well, yes, I don't
Okay.
have much. I
Okay.
mean, I happen to think that what you did
Great.
is, there's only a couple of things that two things that I wanted to mention.
Okay, great.
One has to do just with a point of detail, and that's in the opening paragraph on page 2. You make reference to the presentation date of November 5th. I have to apologize, I didn't pull the records, but I know I wasn't here on November 5th. I think I was here on December 7th, and I think on December 7th, the November 5th presentation was actually withdrawn and refiled. So just as a point of, if that's correct, that's my memory. If it's correct, it probably should be in there.
Okay,
In terms of the special conditions, I will ask you again to consider at least having the owner of the abutting property added to the list of people who receive the notices, specifically paragraph 12 and 13, especially paragraph 12 and 13. And in terms of I think that number 15 is a response, maybe to what I said. It was an issue that I raised at least. I'm not sure that it goes as far as I would go, because it still allows for the transfer of the stock of that corporation to people who you don't know. And it allows for officers and directors to be replaced in that corporation by people you don't know. These people you do know, they've been vetted by the state pretty thoroughly, and they stood up to it. I would think that you'd want to have that same opportunity if they decided they wanted to get out of this business. You'd want to have that done, and maybe the state would require it anyway. I don't know, but just to be on the safe side. And then, I guess, really, a question, and this was just raised with me, and we talked about these things and what happens if nothing happens. There's this March 2nd letter, responded pretty clearly to the issues that had been raised earlier, provided you with evidence of insurance and things like that that they were supposed to do. But it is prospective in its approach, and I think that the letter should be a condition, should be added, that the completion of the elements that are in that letter should be a condition. Just having it be part of the presentation doesn't make it a condition. So I think you should add a condition that says all the commitments that are included in the March 2nd or 3rd or whatever the date is also a condition. And I would strongly suggest that you hold on to paragraph 8. That's the best protection for the town, quite frankly, the best protection for my client. And I think that paragraph 8 is pretty clear on its face. I'm not sure
I'm sorry, Attorney Connolly, are you referring to the paragraph 8 of the letter, or?
of page 4, I'm sorry, of your draft decision.
Thank you.
And it's very clear. I'm not sure, if I were on the other side, I might not like the words "for cause" at the end because it's a little indefinite, but there's really nothing wrong with it, I don't think. I mean, that's something that can be defined in the course of a disciplinary situation if necessary. So that's really where we're coming from. Again, I appreciate your attention to me. I know I can go on sometimes, but also I would say that it would be helpful on behalf of my clients and perhaps anybody else in the neighborhood, if coming out of this process, there was some direction as to if someone has a problem or thinks they have a problem with this situation, if a nuisance does arise in violation of these conditions, where does that person go with that issue? Having some sort of an understanding of a process for that, for anybody who might feel that they need it, it would be a nice thing if that were something that the board could address.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Mr. Chairman, if there are no other comments or questions from the public, I think it might be a good idea to review this decision as a board closely, because a lot of these conditions were suggested by one person, I know, me. So maybe the board might want to discuss some of them
Well, that-
before we do a blanket approval, or
Well, that's what I said we would do. So
Great.
we'd go to the public, the applicant, now we're gonna bring it back to the board, and I suspect, you gentlemen may wanna come back up to the front table to, because what we're gonna do now is go through these conditions, and, okay, so I guess, the best way to do this is for each of us, we'll go around the table, and each of us, one,
may I suggest a possible methodology, Mr. Chairman?
I was gonna say one, but go ahead.
I'm gonna read through it, and I'll stop at every point, and then if anyone has a problem, they can make a mention of it. If they don't like it, we can talk about it. If they wanna leave it, we move on.
Sounds good. You guys all like that?
That's good.
Okay.
Great. First thing, we wanna look at the first page. Any problems with the first page? Did anybody say? I didn't.
I think Mr. Connolly.
March 9th?
No, the November
November
5th.
5th date.
I think he was accurate.
On the very first page. On the very first page.
Page 1 of 9.
Page 1.
Yeah.
March 9th. That's the first
So,
one.
no, in the paragraph where it says submitted on November 5th.
I believe he was correct in the fact that we withdrew and then resubmitted with that. Yeah.
And that's when it was submitted.
It was initially submitted,
right?
correct?
Yeah.
On the 5th? It was initially submitted, so if that word is plugged in, initially submitted on the 5th, and if you wanna spell it out, you know, withdrawn and,
I'll defer to the board. I don't wanna make this more, or,
It should reference the date that the application that you're acting on was submitted. If you want to
Okay.
give a historical summary, that's fine, but
No.
the date should be in here. The application you're acting on, the date of submitted should be in here.
so that date would be,
I think Andrea might have it for us.
December 2nd.
It should be date stamped. It should be date stamped.
I know. I'll get that, I just, it's not right, jumping out at me.
so let's,
I think we should wait, because then we can make direct changes to the document
well,
immediately as we make the changes, and then at the end of the process, it's done.
if we can finish them all, and that this is one way to do it.
Would you want me to keep looking for it?
December 9th.
is it 9th? Is it the 9th? I can, okay.
That sounds right.
Yep. 6
That
weeks,
rings true.
6 weeks after the 5th.
I'm not gonna be able to find it.
Yeah, December 9th was the Wednesday.
I'll need to research it.
So, why don't we, assume it's December 9th, and if it turns out to be otherwise, you'll have to notify us, but confirm that, please?
Yep.
Okay.
Immediately before that, there's a date, March 9th, 2016, where it says the board voted to approve with conditions the application. I think we actually did that?
No.
Okay.
Well, we're hoping that,
Oh, it's future thing. We're gonna do that tonight?
Are we?
Well, we'll find out.
Somebody want to make the motion?
Do what?
Oh, we
To
were,
approve with
change it?
Conditions?
thought we were talking about it first.
Oh, okay. Your call.
Hey, Harry?
We'll leave it that way then.
Harry,
Yep.
come on. I'm just.
Just trying to get that out of the way.
I understand, I understand.
Okay. The November 5th date on this page 2. Change to December 9th, right?
Yep.
Findings of fact. Anybody have a problem with 1,
Nope.
2,
Nope.
3?
Yeah, that's not necessary.
3, delete 3?
Yeah, because it's an existing building.
I agree.
That was
I agree.
repeated.
It's a copy and
That's-
paste.
Yeah.
I agree. Anybody have an issue with deleting number 3? Under findings of fact, deleting number 3? Anybody? We good? Number 4? I like 4. Everybody like 4? Number 5? Look good to you? Keeping number 5. Number 6?
That you can
Yeah,
square
we
out
can,
too.
yeah.
That's because it's an existing building. That one can go.
I'll be good with killing that one too. We go with killing number 2? Number 6? Number 6 gets deleted. Number 7?
Okay.
I really don't know what it has to do with Parker River. You're at the Mill River down there, but
That should be, it's not, it's the route, take the Parker River off. That's Rowley's water supply, I think it should be. And that's what I think I did when I sent mine in,
Replace Parker River with Raleigh Water
Rowley's
Supply.
water supply.
you know.
I like that.
Is everyone in agreement with that one? Okay, let's see.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, and then the
And
next,
strike number 8, right? Obviously.
yeah. Then the next one was mine, and when it got to the finding,
different date though, right?
I thought we should be repeating medical marijuana throughout. And this is one of them. I edited what you see now. Instead of where I wrote for such a business, I want to insert a medical marijuana.
Where are you, Tom?
In
I'm
the
sorry.
red,
Where are
on
you?
page 3.
Page
On
2.
page 3?
The whole page is red.
So we have a red paragraph at the bottom of page 2.
Right,
So,
yeah, that's
Are we
pretty much
okay
the
with
same
that?
as what was in, I wanted the name of, what's missing in the first one you read, on the top of that page, is, the name of the person, Mr. Nathan Averill, and as per plans of Hayes Engineering, Inc., Peter J. Ogren, P.E.P.L.S., dated September 21st, 2015.
So you want to include that language in the first paragraph of page 2?
Yes.
Okay.
And,
is everybody okay with that?
Yeah. Merging the 2 paragraphs?
Okay.
Yeah. That jumps up to the
So
very top of
Andrea,
page
did you
2,
get-
right?
Andrea, did you get that?
Yep.
Okay.
Did she also say she wants to say registered medical marijuana?
yeah. No, in the next,
Okay,
finding,
okay.
okay? I had edited what you see in your packet to, the site map 14 lot 4 is an ideal location for a medical marijuana facility located in the industrial B zoning district, accessible to I-95 and Route 133, and has no visual impacts to the Georgetown and Raleigh neighborhood properties. In an existing building, and I think that should be stated.
So you'd like to add that to the findings.
Right.
Do you mind if I just make a few comments on grammar? And,
Sure. Sure, go for it.
The site map, well, I can, the site map 14 lot 4 is an ideal location for such a business, period. Being located in the industrial B zoning district, comma, easily accessible to Highway 95 and Route 133, and has no visual impacts to Georgetown or Raleigh neighboring properties. And what was that last thing you said?
In an
And
existing building,
it is located
yeah.
on an existing building, okay.
Uh,
Are we striking the word finding?
So
No,
this
that
would.
Just because it will end up being, and then we're
Make it
working
number
on the
8.
numbering,
Yeah, make it number 8,
so that it's just a continuation. I don't think it will be 8.
or
Well,
whatever the
Andrea
next
can
number
fix
is.
it, yeah. Because,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
Okay, the applicants provided all necessary documents to confirm approval. That look
I
good?
just want to go back to that paragraph
Sure.
that Tilly was talking about, has no visual impacts. I don't know if I'm comfortable with that, and I'd like to strike that last line and just leave it as located in the industrial B zoning district, easily accessible to Highway 95 and 133. I mean, if you want to say minimal, or something like
Limited?
that, but
Limited visual impacts?
either strike it or quantify it, but you can't say no.
It sounds kind of absolute when you say no, huh? Limited visual impacts?
I'd just strike it. When there's an opportunity to strike something, that gets my vote.
All right,
You guys all right with that?
that's okay.
So period after Route 133, followed by it is located in an existing building? Is that how we're looking at it? I like,
Or we could just include that in that sentence.
and is located in an existing building?
And is located,
I like it.
It is located in an existing building in the industrial B zoning district.
Hmm.
yeah. Plug it in at that part of the sentence. Okay.
Works.
Okay. And then you can go through it. I haven't changed any of them. That's basically yours, Harry, right?
No, this one is not mine. The applicants have provided all necessary documents to confirm approval.
Okay.
The only change I'd make to that is Conservation Commission, not Conservation Board. Commission,
Mhm.
right? We good with that?
Yep.
I see Matt furiously typing away there.
I'm just, want to have a final version of what we just agreed to.
Is that gonna be our
Are-
edit version?
Are these our findings of fact?
Hmm.
Okay.
They have to be.
Well, we ran out of numbers here.
Yeah, we'll renumber.
I'm just unclear.
What I did was kept everybody's together, so Tilly,
Sure.
with findings and conditions, but I just
We'll-
have the
we'll-
whole thing together,
Yep.
so, yeah, we have to kind of.
We'll just
reorganize it.
renumber 'em.
Yeah. Put the findings with the findings, and put the conditions with the conditions.
And then those are my special conditions. No, they're
It-
kind of,
As much as I agree with the fact that, or the comment that it's an ideal location, it's hardly a finding of fact. I mean, that's our opinion, and
Well,
it's great, but I'm not sure that I understand what the purpose of all of this is.
The only reason I think that that's important is that that's one of the criteria in the medical marijuana bylaws.
Got it.
That they did a site search, and this was the site search, and so we could change it from ideal to a suitable location, if you don't want ideal.
I like that.
I like that better.
yeah, suitable location sounds good.
You might want to also just take out of fact. I mean, you're essentially making findings of what you're making. You don't need.
In the heading on page 2,
Yeah,
in that very heading, striking the word of fact.
yeah.
The words of fact. Okay.
I appreciate those comments, John.
Mass State awarded an RMD provisional certificate. That's just, is that accurate as far as the date is concerned? June 27th, 2014?
Yes, I believe it is. It was actually first on January 31st of 2014, and then they repeated their process for 6 months. And but I can look to
We don't have
to
a
make that
disconnect,
really
right?
sure. Yeah,
Forgive my ignorance, but what's the board? It's not just the state, what's the board?
it's the Department of Public Health,
Okay.
the Massachusetts Department of Public Health,
Any problems changing it to that?
instead of Mass State. You mean?
Yeah, DPA.
DPH.
I don't understand what the next paragraph is about.
The next one?
Yeah,
The Mass State Board of Health, et cetera.
yeah, I don't really.
Yeah, I was questionable about that, but I was just thinking of my own personal decision-making, that gave me confidence that the State Board of Health was gonna be, oversighting everything.
Yeah, that we don't have responsibility for packaging.
That's the way
all of
I
this
thought
other
of it,
stuff.
but, yeah, that's up to you, how you feel about it.
Signage is
So-
within our,
Whether we write it in here or not, it's true. So
It's
I'm
a-
not sure that it's necessary, but if anybody wants it, I don't have a problem with it. I just,
I think the only, I think the architectural design, signage, I mean, that's a shared, I know the interior is regulated by that. Signage of the interior is regulated by that, but the exteriors of those fell into our camp. I don't have strong feelings one way or the other, I'm okay. If you wanna keep it, gets my vote if you don't.
I think it should also read the Mass Department of Public Health rather than State Board of Health.
personally, I would strike it, but.
I'd back you up on striking the entire paragraph.
It's fine with me. And you guys all
Strike the
live
whole
with that?
paragraph?
Doesn't-
Killing that whole paragraph?
Doesn't
Kill
matter,
that
they're gonna do it
paragraph.
anyway.
Right, right.
They're
Yeah.
responsible
Yeah,
anyway.
we-
Because then otherwise we have to cite everything that they have to follow,
Oh, no, we don't wanna do
the
that.
bylaws and the general laws, and, I mean, it just gets to,
Okay, I hear you.
So, everybody like the heading special conditions there?
love it.
Okay. Proposed RMD shall not create a nuisance. These are copy and paste from our
Boilerplate, yeah.
bylaw, right?
No, these are mine. Well,
These are
I try to make them as precise as possible. And,
Well, then, let's hone them now.
Okay.
So one was okay,
One, everybody good with one?
so two,
2, shall not create a drainage flow adjoining land. I'm good with that. Everybody like number 2? Number 3? We're good with that. We sort of did, I did kind of tune that one a little bit. Tilly.
could we add Georgetown to that too? Could eliminate the Georgetown or Raleigh water supply?
Don't know how it would do it from there with the flow, but sure, if you'd like that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd love that.
Have to be by Catapult.
I thought maybe when I was editing.
Georgetown and/or Rowley
And
and/or Rowley Water Supply. Good.
Mr. Chairman, may I chime in for just?
Please, always.
Okay, and this is just the number 2, no, just maybe look at it very closely for the language of it, since you are being particularly thorough on all of it. Just when I'm reading it, shall not cause drainage or water flow, maybe to leave the site and to prevent. And then I think what you're saying is that you want to make sure that we don't change the groundwater levels or increase runoff. Am I correct?
That's right.
Okay, so just, I'm not sure exactly what language you want to use there, but when I read it, the sentence very closely, it doesn't actually
It
tell
needs a
me.
grammar check, doesn't it?
I mean, you know, just
From
because you're
driver
being very
review.
meticulous about it, and I appreciate that, you know.
How do we want to fix that, Ken?
Even the site changed from the previous use.
It's missing words.
Yeah, there are a few missing words.
Shall not cause
See
drainage
what happens
or
at
water
4 AM?
Proposed use shall not cause drainage or water flow to leave site,
To leave the
comma,
site.
to, well.
Semicolon.
If you really
Leave
wanted
site.
to add to
Semicolon,
that as the
after site.
maintenance plan for cleaning the drains.
And shall not,
If
and
you
shall
wanted
not,
to implement that as well, this is where you would put it.
What's that, Tilly? I'm sorry?
Maintaining the drain that's there, cleaning it, and they would be responsible for it. You could add that to it. There's
I
a
think that
drain
would
at
be
the
a-
entranceway on the
That's-
access way.
that's a different one. That would be a different item.
Okay.
Shall not.
The proposed use shall not cause drainage or water flow to leave site and shall not prevent changes in groundwater
What I would
levels.
probably do, the proposed use shall not, A,
Gotcha.
cause drainage or water flow to leave site. B, prevent changes in groundwater levels. C, increase runoff.
May I ask a question? Only because water flow does
Yeah,
currently
it does.
leave the site. And I may be laboring this a little.
So maybe what we want to say is an increase in flow,
Yeah.
which you
Or
can't
from
do anyway.
existing conditions, or, you know,
An increase in drainage,
Increase.
right?
And then,
Which you
It's-
can't do anyway.
You can't do it anyway, yeah.
yeah,
Right.
and if you're doing that itemized list, I'm not sure, oh, sorry.
Not cause an increase
In groundwater.
in drainage or water flow to leave.
Yep. Oh, do we want to just put the semicolon and? rather
Yeah,
than
I think
colon
the
rather?
semicolons were great, yeah.
So the proposed use shall not, colon,
One.
cause
A,
drainage,
yeah.
Comma,
A,
two.
cause an increase in drainage or water flow to leave the site, right?
B,
B,
prevent changes in the,
But cause changes. really.
cause changes,
Cause
yeah, I
changes,
like that
okay.
one,
Shall
cause
not
change.
cause changes.
Changes in groundwater level. Semicolon, C,
Increase runoff.
increase runoff
From the,
or the potential for flooding.
shall not cause changes in groundwater levels from the existing use or previous use or something is,
well, it's not gonna cause,
okay, so yeah, never mind, sorry.
We got that one right.
Yep,
because the groundwater's gonna fluctuate naturally,
okay,
so.
yeah, great.
C, increase runoff.
And it's not increased, it would be just increase.
Increase, right.
Yeah,
Or potential for flooding.
increase runoff and potential for flooding to adjoining land and roads.
Potential, right? Not potential for flooding,
Okay,
like it?
sounds good?
I
Everybody
had,
okay?
I had two more that I wanted to add to, in this one too.
To number 2?
On to, well, wherever you feel like you wanna put these, but I was reviewing the fire department letter, and there was a request to install locks box for keys to the facility, as well as keys for all areas in the building for
Okay,
the Georgetown Fire Department.
What I'd
Should we add that at the end?
what I'd like to try to do is, based on Harry's suggestion of the method that we're going through, is to go through what we have in front of us and respond to each of them, and then those items that we have in addition to that, we'll then go back and hit those.
Love it.
Right,
So we'll just keep following.
So we have
We done with two,
two
right?
A, B, and C. Are there any additional things relating to drainage, water flow, or anything?
I'm good with that.
I'm good.
with that.
We already discussed 3, we added Georgetown and/or,
Yep,
right?
yep. Good with that.
4, provide proof of liability, it's already been done.
That's it.
5, all truck trade bays, internal.
So you had something you
If I
wanted,
might, you might wanna just have that be an annual, make it an annual requirement. That they give you an insurance certificate every year to show you what the coverage is there.
So this is where I'm being fairly new still to the board. This is where I'm not sure of our responsibilities. Do we have that kind of ongoing monitoring ability? I mean, once we approve this, that's been my experience, that once we approve, it's then somebody else's department.
Building
to-
inspector or
Building
fire
inspector.
department or somebody.
yeah.
We would get a copy
I
and put
agree.
it in our file, number one. And just like we do with the bonds, you know, if in time that these things can get done, we still have that surety. That's all this is. And this liability insurance is also a requirement of the state. So he gave us a copy. We have it, a copy.
No, I understand, but then council's asking us to continue to do that obligation, or to follow up with that once a year. I'm not sure that that's our bailiwick, but
I
I'm
don't
not
see
sure.
any, if that's, you know, I think that would be, I don't know.
Undue
What do you
burden.
think, John?
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
All right.
It's not really an enforcement mechanism, it's simply an update mechanism, basically saying we want to have this reported to us on a regular basis so that if and when enforcement becomes necessary, we'll have the information we need to make a determination.
All right.
So, annual?
Shall annually provide proof of liability insurance to the planning board and the zoning compliance officer. We all ready to rock and roll?
Mm-hmm.
5, truck bays and floor drains have to be sealed, with the exception of the
So you had
lavatory and the
some-
showers.
Question.
Well, yeah, so this, we just wanted to add to this, except those required by code, because I think we had a plumbing engineer, like, review the place and said, well, you might have to do something with a drain for code, and so, you know, we just wanna make sure that that's
Approved
left
by
in
the
there.
plumbing inspector and
Yeah.
the building
Is that
inspector.
basically what?
And he's gotta make sure you stick to code.
Yeah.
You know.
Accepting lavatory, shower drains, and others required by code.
That works for us.
Okay.
As approved by.
Yep.
Yep.
You had something on 6?
Yeah, so you know, just reading through it, and this is just maybe for my own edification, it doesn't require, the inspecting engineer, is that the building inspector, the zoning enforcement
Larry
officer,
Graham.
or Larry Graham?
Larry Graham.
It's Larry Graham, okay.
That was- Our concern was that the inspecting engineer was privy to the discussions that we had.
Okay,
So that's fine.
great, that's all.
So everybody's good with number 6?
I'm not in that, I think what was discussed was that the repairs were, a temporary repair. And that there would be some sort of, commitment to down the road repairing it as required to bring it up to speed. So, this one.
Perhaps an annual inspection by the inspecting engineer?
Well, it was one that I had, and maybe this would be where it comes in to play, and it was something to the effect of, well, then I need to turn to it. Where would that be? 5 years.
So number 2 in the letter from Hayes suggested crack sealing and seal coating to solve this.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if that was enough for Larry.
It wasn't, and basically it was something to the effect of adding in that 5 years after the approval of the project, applicant shall repair the pavement in its total, or, you know, forfeit the special permit. Something to that effect where there's teeth that make sure it happens, but it was just the idea of the repair 5 years from now, because what's being done now is temporary, that 5 years from now, whether it's a total repair or not, there's something with teeth in it for the town to make sure that it is kept up to speed.
Yeah, so just put that into that
5 years
in
from
that 50-year renewal as a condition.
5 years from now, they have to come back for a renewal. And
Right,
the
so I
way that-
think what, Rob, if I'm understanding you correctly, you're saying that as a condition of that, you would want to make sure that this pavement would have been adequately addressed prior to that period.
Correct.
I looked at it
Like
yesterday.
after 2 years.
Correct.
I looked at it yesterday, and it
I-
doesn't look that
5
bad.
5 years is.
You know, to me, I don't think it needs at this time a repaving of any kind. It looked clean, presentable. I didn't see, you know, I drove all around and I didn't see anything lifting up from my car. So it is kind of intact right now, I think.
It is, and I think in asking Larry Graham his opinion, he gave it a 5 on a scale of 1 to 10. And I agree with what you said, but it is going to need some more serious work down the road, and it's just,
Right.
I think everybody's nodded their head that what we're doing now is trying to, you know, get this moving forward, get the temporary fix in place, get the project up and running, but then have the town, you know, and the project protected with teeth in it.
Yeah.
So if I may, if we said something to the effect of, the applicant shall, I'm sorry. Yeah, pavement surrounding the facility shall be, repaired and upgraded, in the effect by crack sealing and seal coating on the damaged pavements areas on site within, you know, whatever period of time that we discussed. And in addition, within the 5-year period, reference in number whatever, prior to resubmitting the application, shall ensure the whole thing is done, or whatever we're,
That would work, and then, so when that application is resubmitted, that's when the town has the teeth to enforce that taking place, making sure it's up to speed.
let me see if I can type that a little bit more artfully than what I just said.
Could I suggest that it doesn't say necessarily replace the whole thing, but meets the criteria by the
The technical review agent.
yeah, something like that,
Totally fine
because
with that.
I think it
Totally-
might not need to be
It
all
might
ripped
not,
out.
no,
but-
I agree. I totally agree.
Just a question.
I totally agree.
The paved area goes around the right side of the building, and it's quite extensive in the back there.
Yeah.
Do you anticipate using that space?
Um,
I didn't think so.
So, if we wanna be correct, where the public has access, it should be safe. What we do in the back, with trucks rolling around, if the trucks have to drive on the dirt road and there's no public, there's really no requirement to have pavement there. So, if we wanna be totally correct, where the public has access to the dispensary, which is just the driveway and the front of the building, and a little bit of the side, and then, that should be in very good shape for safety. What happens in the back there, and we're gonna rent it out to, I don't know, a guy that might just use it once a year, I have no idea. So,
You're gonna what?
I guess I
Yeah.
just, I guess I.
You're gonna what?
Yeah.
well, rent out the extra 20,000
The proposed future lease expansion area?
Yeah.
That
You
would-
didn't
they'd have to
mention
come
that
and get a permit.
Oh,
before.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I
okay.
recall.
Absolutely, it was in there.
What's going
They would
there?
have to come and get a permit. This is not something that we have like currently contemplating. They'd be in front of you again. This is not something that we think is
Right.
part of this application.
Probably wouldn't be us.
But there may be, if we don't use the whole space, the idea was that there would be maybe potentially another cultivator with the exact same use, no more retail, but they would lease part of the space from us. That's something that we've been considering.
Or a boat storage, or whatever it is, you know. But that part would not be accessible to the public at all. And
But
Well,
you're
I
talking
guess I'm not comfortable with parsing it like that at this point in time, unless there's a drawing that actually reflects it, and we're all in agreement on that. And I guess I'd just like to leave it at, you know, I think the technical review agent has been reasonable, and I'd like to leave it up to his, you know.
That works.
So,
If you change that use, it has
Use
to
that,
come for a
yeah.
permit.
oh yeah, totally.
All right.
So, but tell me what the delineation is. What do they have to do within 90 days, and what do they have to do, or whatever period of time? And
so within 90 days, they have to do what has been said here.
what's said there? Okay.
All pavements surrounding the facility shall be repaired and/or upgraded to the satisfaction of the inspecting engineer, that,
Within
it's
90
not the
days, yeah.
inspecting engineer, it's the,
Would
Would it be 90
anybody
days or
not
prior
be
to
comfortable with
no,
doing
this is
that
prior,
annually?
this is prior to the
Prior.
endorsement of the plan.
Fine, okay.
But I think that should be something that gets done annually,
Not prior
so
to
that,
endorsement.
this is,
No, not prior,
no, this is special conditions.
right, right.
Perhaps something that
So
the
this is-
inspection
this is-
engineer should inspect annually and make a judgment call. In 3 years, if it's so badly degraded that it needs to be repaired or replaced, I would think that would be the time to do it.
Is there a comparable situation, say, at Dunkin' Donuts, or when we granted the permits for Georgetown Liquor Space, that area, did we have, I don't think we did anything.
I wasn't part of
No,
that.
we didn't, no. I don't remember that as.
Do you recall that, Art?
There was a site plan, that wasn't a special permit. This is special permit. This is special permit.
Right, but the use would be comparable and actually less.
Is it,
I
can
understand what
we,
you say.
so I think we were heading somewhere with something that worked
Okay.
with what was
But is your question, are we treating them, are we increasing our scrutiny of them on their pavement issue more than we would any other business?
Exactly.
Okay.
I think A, because A, partially because it is a special permit, and B, any project, it's our responsibility to make sure that the site that's in place on the day that it's up and running meets certain standards.
And especially a
health, safety,
project that,
wildlife.
with pavement being called out by the inside inspection engineer. He called it out in his review. That didn't happen at any other place.
Correct.
So, all pavement surrounding the facility and shown on site plan must be repaired to the satisfaction of the inspecting engineer prior to occupancy, and
And,
Review
and,
in 3 years.
renewal of this application shall be subject to,
and repaired to the satisfaction of the, technical review agent prior to the 5-year renewal period.
That was one of the things that brought up the inspecting engineer,
Yeah.
just the consistency between technical reviewing and inspecting.
So the inspecting engineer, though, he's just inspecting the plans and making sure that the plans happen. The technical review agent at that point would be stepping in, doing a different job,
Sorry.
because he would be looking at it from the town's point of view in terms of what's needed.
At the 5-year renewal, is that
At
what
the
you
five,
said?
at the 5-year renewal.
Yeah.
And that pavement's gonna be fine for that
Yeah,
one, with
I
the
think
patching
so.
that they're talking about doing. It's gonna be fine for that.
Just a point of information, the bylaw actually has, at the end, a set of standards that, under the language of the bylaw, this special permit will be subject to.
Yep.
It includes operation, maintenance,
Yep.
and all these other issues, so, you've got protection already, on that issue.
Yep. So could you read that back?
all pavement surrounding the facility and shown on the site plan must be repaired to the satisfaction of the inspecting engineer prior to occupancy.
Good.
It shall be repaired to the satisfaction of the technical review agent prior to the 5-year renewal.
Good.
Simple, nice.
Number 7.
You guys okay with that then?
Prior to the issuance of an occupancy permit, surety will be delivered by the applicant in the form of a cash deposit for the purpose of ensuring that the conditions of the special permit are met. Amount of the surety be recommended by the town consulting engineer, or perhaps you want to change that to
You-
the site review, the technical review agent? Should we use that word, that term?
Technical review agent. Yeah.
Technical review agent?
You had a concern or a question, clarification
Well,
about that?
so the concern is, I guess it comes in a couple different levels. The cash deposit, if we're talking about, you know, and there's not that many things in here, but if we don't know what that number is, we don't know exactly what the inspecting engineer might want for the pavement. We don't know, you know,
Neither do we.
Yeah, and so just the idea of leaving a cash bond that could potentially be $200,000 or something before we start the project,
Right.
it's definitely makes us a little uncomfortable to just sort of write that kind of check as opposed to buying a bond or insurance or whatever that there's certainly plenty of bonding companies that you put up a percentage of what your cost is, and I think it's covered elsewhere as well. So that's the only
Well, can we put into here something that makes it happen where you all put an estimate to the project costs, construction costs, we give it to our technical review agent, he agrees, doesn't agree, we come up with a number and base this number on that?
So is it the whole, I mean, so it seems like the cash security here is to ensure that we perform the special permit, the special conditions of the permit. Is that essentially what the idea is behind that?
The ceiling.
Who put this one in?
I did. The ceiling.
The ceiling?
The ceiling of the truck bay, drains, all the drains, the pavement, that all has to be.
So,
Yeah, so,
And if you don't do it, town has the money to do it.
but so that means that our special permit wouldn't then be revoked for failing to do it, but the town would spend the money to do it instead? Because the next one is if we don't perform, we don't do this stuff, then you revoke the special permit, right? So we're putting up cash for the town to do it, and it gets revoked? Or, I'm not trying to be,
Good point.
John, do you have?
Yeah,
I'm just trying to talk it through,
maybe, I mean, if you don't like it, I mean,
I'm not trying to push back very, I'm just trying to get
don't have to accept
a
it.
grasp on it, because I mean, the idea of just writing a giant check.
And I want to assure you, even if you are pushing back, it's okay.
Okay, I mean, I appreciate the
Question.
diligence that the board's done on this, I really do, so I'm not trying to make it
No
more
worries.
difficult.
No
you know?
worries, we're all trying to
Okay.
make it work.
It
Okay,
seems to
thank
me
you.
that everything we've just asked them to do in these conditions, it's part of issuing an occupancy permit. So what's the harm to the town if they don't do it, because they don't get to operate?
well, if they don't do it, can the occupancy permit be withheld?
Yeah,
Yeah?
they can't,
That-
they can't have
Because you
it.
guys have to give the approval that it's all done correctly, and then the occupancy permit, that's the condition you're putting in.
That's your surety.
Before issuing the occupancy permit by the building department,
Yep.
the planning board has to sign off on
On the-
the meeting of the special conditions.
That is correct.
So if we don't pave the lot, we don't get that special permit. So there's no need to put a bond up, because we're going to have to do it anyway if this is what we really want to do. And I think after 9 months, I really like to do this.
I recall a case where we were going to have an elevator put in on a special permit, and the elevator didn't get put in, and when we tried to get that elevator put in, we were advised by town council that we should have gotten surety to ensure that.
John, do you have an opinion?
My one opinion is I wasn't the town council
I
advised on that
understand,
issue.
I'm not saying you were. I didn't say you were. I said
It's not an
someone
opinion, I think that's a finding of fact, but, what Harry's bringing in here is something that comes out of subdivision control. I mean, that's the typical arena, and that's where this language primarily comes from. It doesn't mean that you can't have security for certain special permit criteria conditions, but, the reason for that security under subdivision control is very different. You've got an as of right use, you've got building permits can issue for houses, and that security is essentially to protect the public that buys into the subdivision,
houses.
to ensure adequate access and utilities and things like that. This is a different situation. As they point out, you've got conditions on this permit that govern whether they can actually operate at all there. And if they don't adhere to the conditions, and it's not inspected showing that they've adhered, then enforcement takes place. Either they don't get an occupancy permit, or if they have one, enforcement action can be taken by the town.
I recommend
Who's
striking
scrubbing?
it.
I would
Scrub
strike
seven?
it.
Strike it.
Scrubbing 7. I buy 7.
We're gonna move on from 7, okay? We just scratched it.
Number 8, planning board may immediately revoke special permit for failure to meet any of the conditions of the special permit. For cause.
Bada boom, bada bing.
Number 9,
What,
manual.
so, I'm sorry, this is
You
one of
had
the ones that I
something.
threw a number out at.
You did, I have a circle about it.
And
Now that's sure.
You know, like some sort of, I mean, you know, I'm Dutch, I really, like I said, I feel, I'm not trying to be difficult, but some sort of cure period, like a cease and desist order or something. I mean, if, you know, if Mr. Graham comes and, you know, the tar isn't put, sealing a crack right to his satisfaction, we got
should
grounds
have some
for an
time.
immediate revocation.
Should have some time.
Based on that, so, you know, 60-day cure period.
What would
I
you
don't know.
recommend for language for
Word may.
that would work for you?
It does say may, but that gives you actually all the discretion in the world that to revoke it based on, yes.
So I somewhat disagree with you here, because we got to publish notice of the meeting, we've got to notice you, we've got to schedule a meeting, we only have meetings every 2 weeks. I think that there's a little bit of notice time there, and this isn't saying we're going to, this is saying that we can for cause, because it might, sure, we're gonna give you some time to refill a crack, but what for cause can mean.
So I wasn't worried about the for
Yeah,
cause part, it was
okay.
only the immediately part, because that sort of circumvents that notice stuff that you just spoke about and discussing it. It's, the immediately part was the only, I wasn't trying to,
Or would it
Maybe by
would it
vote.
help to say may immediately or extend that some period?
Do we need immediately?
It's
Maybe-
not
need the word.
shall, it's may.
May,
By public
We
hearing.
we may revoke it.
we may revoke this.
We may revoke it immediately, we may revoke it
I-
in 2 months.
I would,
No,
I would
wouldn't
go
do
with that way, get rid of immediately, may revoke it.
Either you take it out or you don't.
No, no,
do
no,
it
no, no,
like
no,
that.
I'm not suggesting that we say, oh, in some random period of time.
Yeah, right,
No.
that's the way it sounded.
may revoke it if not cured within, you know, a reasonable amount of time, if not cured within 30 days or
It's
15
not just
days.
that, I mean, it's,
So-
if there's a problem with water, if there's something that you discover
How do
that
they-
May have different
becomes
times.
an issue, then we may have to revoke the permit.
I think we should leave it in, really. I think this is the stick, that you're gonna do exactly what we put down here.
No, absolutely, and we have to anyway, because we don't get occupancy,
Well,
whatever,
that's
but.
right.
And you,
but this is
you want this
more-
project to move forward, I understand.
I don't have any, what was your concern though, Matt, with having it say the planning board may revoke the special permit if not corrected within 30 days for failure to meet any of the conditions?
Well, so for example, one of the conditions that we have in here, or that we're proposing, is that they're gonna pay for, extra police detail if if the police chief says that he needs it. If they're not complying with that, that might be something that we need to close it down immediately, safety, public safety reasons, for example. So that's my concern about giving them.
All in favor of keeping it the way it is? Or,
Aye.
I mean, I'm in
I would,
favor.
I would say get rid of the word immediately.
I'd be comfortable with that too.
I totally am with Bob on that.
All right,
Just
that's,
a point of clarification, and this may be for council. Revocation of a special permit versus suspension of a special permit. If you revoke the special permit, would they have to reapply to and go through the public hearing process again to get it reinstated versus?
Ooh, a good question, I think.
So, yeah, this kind of leads into what I was gonna say before. Matt, you had mentioned earlier about where is the enforcement authority, is the planning board an enforcement agency? And you can read this to kind of look at, say that the planning board's gonna enforce the terms of this. I don't think that's how you would correctly read it. I don't have any problem with the condition. I think what this does is it provides boundaries, and particularly temporal boundaries on the special permit, saying if you don't adhere to these conditions, the permit will terminate. But the enforcement is still gonna be done by the zoning enforcement officer in the town. So immediately is not so much a temporal thing, because it's still, he's gonna have to issue a cease and desist order. There's gonna be an appeal process, which is what anybody has for zoning enforcement. It's gonna come to the ZBA. But if they were to be found to be in violation, what this would then say would kick in and say, okay, that's an automatic revocation of the special permit once that finding has been made. So, in other words, it doesn't take any action of the board, essentially. That's how I would read this. But there will certainly be an appeal process. This isn't gonna be the planning board just jumping up and saying, we're gonna revoke the special permit.
And that was my only concern with it. Whatever standard appeal process may exist in Georgetown and pursuant to, 40A, but, no problems, obviously, as long as we're not eliminating that just because of the use. That's kind of what I was getting at with this.
It doesn't sound like we are.
No, I don't think so. I mean, maybe just a better way to say that is that the special permit will terminate upon, finding that the conditions of the special permit have not been met, finding by the zoning enforcement officer or the zoning board of appeals and appeals, something through that process that will automatically terminate. This is similar to what you also have in subdivision control, where you say that if the security is not maintained, or the conditions, the improvements not conducted or constructed within 3 years, the decision, it automatically terminates.
I type faster, not that fast.
No, I know. I'm thinking out loud. I'm not asking you to type.
No, so
Because this is a
you had
board
some, you had
decision,
some
not
great,
mine.
you had some great language there, though. What was that?
Special permit may be terminated. You said special
On
permit may be.
findings of zoning enforcement officer.
Yeah, the special permit shall terminate upon,
Findings of the zoning board of appeals.
correct, that the conditions of special permit have not been met.
Thank you.
Cool.
And do we want to say ZBA or zoning enforcement officer?
No, the zoning enforcement officer would say something, he'd send them a little letter, the whole
To
process
the
would
ZBA,
begin.
okay.
It allows it to go to the appeal process. You could say that, but it extends it to the next obvious level.
Does that work for you?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay.
It's probably the same exact thing. I was just reading too much into it.
No worries.
Okay.
Okay.
Number 9, annual impact fee, amount determined by the Board of Selectmen, paid by the permit holder to the town on the anniversary date. Everybody good with that?
Yeah, does the selectman know this?
Does it make it beyond this?
And
Discussion.
what does the Board of Selectmen do with the money? What's the idea here? What's the thinking here?
Have you had any
Well,
experience
Mitigate the
with
impact.
this?
Are all
How did it work?
businesses, does this happen to all businesses in town?
No, this is
With-
a special thing,
Where'd this come from?
the state.
No,
No, this is not a DPH requirement.
Yeah, this, no.
But isn't
Whose
it
is
in the
this?
law?
The annual impact fee?
No, isn't this in the, yeah, this paragraph, I think, came right out of the pilot, plan that we got.
Harry,
This
where'd
is
you
part
get
of
this
the
from?
law, I
Is this-
believe.
is this-
wrote it.
This sounds like something of a
read
while
it?
Did you write this?
No, it was part of the
So,
training
so is it,
that we got.
is this because we do this with all the businesses in town?
No, because this is a very special permit.
Yeah, this was.
I can't accept this at all. If we don't do this with
I
all the
understand.
businesses, I think
No,
that's.
this is,
Do we
they're
require all the
required to
businesses
do
to
This
have
this.
special
this is exactly why the businesses start to say Georgetown is such a
It
difficult
doesn't
town to
apply
work
to all the
with.
businesses. This is a special law that took 2 or 3 years to write and to get the people to approve it. And this is what it, word for word, I didn't put it in here, but that's where you must have got it, Harry.
Unless by
Unless
osmosis.
it was subconscious, and I remembered it from
Yeah,
3 years ago when we went to that seminar or whatever.
That's right.
But is that, this
You didn't
just
pick
goes
that up.
into a big pot that the selectmen get to look at every couple
So
weeks?
this-
no, it was the impact fee, they
Yeah, I don't
called
get
it.
it.
It was like another tax.
So there's, you know, just from listening, my understanding is that Mr. LaCortiglia wrote this section, and I've read the regulations and the law for the medical use of marijuana program in the Commonwealth more times in the last couple of years than I've talked to my kids. So I know that there's no reference to an annual impact fee in the regulations. It could very well be that when you had a training with the Department of Public Health about how to implement these in the town, the Department of Public Health talked to you about getting the nonprofits and the companies to compensate the towns for any additional fees that may be incurred, or funds that may be incurred by the town for citing them here. I think largely number 10 does that as well. And then we also have, you know, a discussion with, and I was going to stay out of number 9, but just because it's been back and forth, we also had a discussion with the Board of Selectmen to eventually, you know, work with them on, you know, host community agreement and that kind of thing, a pilot kind of thing, exactly like you said. But this particular language and this annual impact fee, I've never seen it before doing any of these, but you know, yeah, you know, but I was frankly gonna leave it alone until the back and forth at the board. It seemed like maybe I could shed some light on it.
I just think that, you know, this town, right now, there's a meeting going on upstairs. with the school committee and the finance committee and a budget that is blowing apart at the seams, and a town that is desperately seeking to expand its tax base, and not through property taxes and by business. And this just seems like an arbitrary attachment, which I do not think is in the town's best interest in terms of, I think it's arbitrary. I don't think it's fair to them because it doesn't happen with other businesses. One, two, I don't think it sets a good precedent for what we're trying to do in this town for creating business and improving our
I
tax base.
agree with you completely. It's an unspecified amount of money for an unspecified purpose, and I don't think that's
It's kind of a
appropriate.
shakedown kind of
Yeah,
deal.
That's what it feels like.
exactly.
Can we strike it?
It wasn't no, I would like to look into it, because this did not drop out of the hat.
Due
This-
respectfully, I think there's 4 people that
Strike,
disagree with you.
strike.
Sorry,
I say in, you say out, she says in, it's gone.
George Martin died.
It's a special permit. Hold on a second. You're talking 4 to, what are you talking, 3
You
to 2?
don't have 4.
What?
You don't have 4.
Strike.
Isn't it a supermajority for these things?
No,
To approve a special permit,
approve,
but
but
internal
not for
votes are
internal
not
votes.
supermajority.
But I don't want this to affect the final vote on the special permit either, you know, so.
Would we do that? I see a hand in the back, Mr. Jim.
I'm sorry, Heidi Murphy, 107 Elm Street. So there are typically community host agreements. The city of Amesbury did a $25,000 community host agreement for 2 years with a $5,000 one. It wasn't part of the special permit process, and also the city of Brockton did one as well. So I think you usually see it at the Board of Selectmen level versus in the special permit, to the extent that's helpful.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So I'd like to go with the 3 people to strike it.
Moving on to 10.
Okay.
Right. Annual written communication between the permit holder and the chief of police, assessing the necessity of any additional policing needs, result of which will be delivered in writing by the applicant to the planning board and the zoning compliance officer at the town. Upon determination, chief of police, additional policing is necessary, the applicant will annually pay on the anniversary date of the approval of the special permit, the amount which will be determined by the chief of police.
Sounds good to me.
Sounds like that was the commitment you made anyway.
Absolutely.
I hope I didn't.
You all,
Yeah, that we're committed to that.
Everybody
no
like
doubt.
that?
Can I just add
Go for it.
additional policing needs as a result of the operation of the business?
Where I am at.
First sentence,
First sentence.
assessing the necessity of any additional policing needs as a result of the operation of the business.
Hmm?
Yep.
I mean, as much as I'd like them
Like
to
it.
pay for an extra police officer, unless it's their cause.
Wouldn't want to put any annual impact fees on
I
them.
couldn't hear
Driveway,
you.
all those other. medical
The operation
marijuana
of the
facilities.
business, he said.
Of the operation?
Of the business, yep.
We good?
okay. Number 11,
Number 11, hours of operation, 8 AM to 8 PM, weekdays and weekends.
does that work for you guys?
Yes.
That was what you
Okay.
Yep.
basically requested, right?
One question, that's very explicit, the implication is now 7 days a week, including Christmas, Kwanzaa, every,
Maybe. Maybe if it said shall not exceed.
that's what I was thinking. To add some flexibility for you.
Yeah, we didn't meet.
Yeah, we won't stay open that long all year round. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Watts. That's right.
Okay.
Shall not exceed. Everybody good with that?
12.
11 at 12.
I'd like to go back to 10. Is, the way I read this is that if the chief of police says that there are additional policing needs, does he have to make that case to anybody, or does he just say there are additional policing needs, and then they pony up?
It's.
Is
my
there an
understanding
approval
was
process?
It's gonna be something that we're going to do as a cooperative, ongoing basis anyway.
My impression is he
That
would
was the impression I was
evaluate
left with.
and give us some kind of
Feedback.
document that said, you know, we've had these extra calls or whatever,
Cool.
and this is
All
what
right, if you're
justified
good,
it.
if you're good, I'm good.
Okay.
I don't know who that would be that we would have that decision, before, so.
No, either.
The
Yeah.
chief of police.
If they get called, all I know about it is that they have to pay for 4 hours, whatever it is. So he probably has that kind of a guide and
Perfect. 12?
12.
Permit holder, filing incident reports,
Same deal.
Send it to the planning board, the the zoning compliant officer. Whenever, 24 hours after creation of the incident report, that comes directly from state regs.
It does.
And such reports may be redacted, blah, blah, blah. Any 3 or more incident reports within any 30-day period will result in the planning board at its discretion holding a public meeting for the purpose of discussing the revocation of the special permit.
So if,
Am I stepping on the ZBA's toes there?
Do you have any?
Okay.
I did have a comment on this. If you look at it in its totality, you know, can I give you a copy of what section F actually says?
Please.
I brought it, so then we could,
Please.
here, pass those around. I'll keep a couple for up here.
Those are the reasons why you have to create an incident report.
Yes, exactly. And
My first question was, what's an incident?
Uh-huh.
And then you
that's
got-
that's why I brought this, so we
Yeah.
could, yep. And so, yeah, you got it exactly out of the regs with the addition of other Georgetown departments, which of course will, you know, defer to the board on that.
So much about incidents and incident reports that I wanted to pull it from there, just so we wouldn't have to worry about definition.
Yeah, absolutely. What I'm concerned with is that, if you look at E, F, and G, you know, we're gonna have, you know, do everything we can to have perfect power. We're gonna do everything we can to prevent alarms, you know, snow, you know, natural, whatever. It could be in a harsh New England winter that the police will be called there for reasons that are completely out of our control. So my suggestion would be, if we could, to limit it to A through D of section F.
So that like false alarms don't trigger
Yeah.
a
Well, what about G?
review.
The other breach of
Yeah, I like
security?
G.
Yes, so, I mean, what's a breach of security? Is it a neighbor coming on our property? The problem that I have is that the incident reporting is supposed to be something that every group wants to do, right? I have this problem, I want to tell my host community about it, I want to tell the department about it, I want to be completely transparent and responsive every time I have an issue. If you put a penalty on a group from doing an incident report, do you think that might diminish the purpose of the incident reporting in the sense that maybe it's a demotivator, right? You know, and
There's no automatic action here. All it says is we may at our discretion, if there's 3 of them, hold a public hearing. That's it. I mean, and so
Okay.
we ask you to come in and you say, yeah, your town
You remember the-
power isn't as good as it should be, and we've lost power 3 times.
Remember the
and-
storm or whatever,
Right.
yeah.
And, I mean,
does this go back to the same issue? We still have the immediately language in there. Does this go, the final sentence of this, does this go back to the same issue with the zoning board of appeal that council had helped us assist, helped us resolve?
I don't think so. I wouldn't,
It just grants us the authority to do it.
no, I think this,
And whether immediately, I mean, we could get rid of immediately, but whether immediately is there or
Not just with the word immediately, but just that the planning board then becomes the enforcement mechanism as opposed to the zoning board of
Zoning
appeal.
Board of Appeal.
Yeah, and so does this create that same issue? And and I'll defer to the planning board and
I would
council on
think it would be best to be consistent.
It is, although this isn't exactly the same type of situation you're looking at with number 8. Again, this is more of a situation, at least it seems to me, where the planning board is essentially putting limitations on the use, and that its further action is part of that limitation on the use, saying that, you know, if we have certain issues with the use, that the planning board wants to look at continuation of the permit. Essentially, it's a condition on the term permit. It definitely is in that, kind of difficult area, frankly, where, is this something, but here at least it's giving the planning board a specific authority within its jurisdiction under this permit to, take a look at whether conditions like these are threatening the viability of the permit based on the conditions that the planning board has issued. Again, I'm not sure that that's tremendously different than what we had before with the zoning enforcement officer, just enforcing the conditions of the permit. But keep in mind one thing, the zoning enforcement officer obviously is not looking to exercise discretion. It's gonna be, are they complying with it or aren't they? I mean, there's some discretion there, but he's not he doesn't exercise discretion, boards exercise discretion. So just essentially setting up a situation where if there are 3 or more incident reports, it's then brought back to the board for, for exercise of the discretion. Is this causing issues with the permit? I mean, it's somewhat unusual for boards to retain essentially oversight, active oversight in this manner. So there's not a lot of guidance on this.
And I just wanna jump in on that, and what bothers me is the planning board with the turnover. A, the planning board taking on that responsibility. I'm uncomfortable with that. And B, you get this turnover in the planning board, you get a real lack of continuity in the understanding of a project, and I'm just uncomfortable with the planning board taking on the responsibility. I'm not sure if someone else should, but.
Well, this whole thing is a whole different thing from anything else we've ever had. And my concern when I was reading this was in November, if the people in this state decide to make marijuana legal, are these conditions going to be slid over to that? And that's where I was wondering, because we didn't get any input about that or any direction.
Actually, that was one of the first questions I asked them in the first public hearing, is if marijuana becomes legalized, are they gonna be able to sell it to the general public, or is this still gonna be medical marijuana? And correct me if I'm wrong, but you're not going to be selling anything other than medical marijuana.
So Healthy Farms is the special permit holder here. And Healthy Farms is a Chapter 180 nonprofit under Massachusetts law that has to operate for the purposes of the nonprofit, which sell marijuana for medical use and provide educational materials and related products to patients of the Commonwealth.
That's where I was wondering, if we don't put it in here that this is strictly medical, and what has happened on other
I think that's in the
permits.
beginning of this whole document.
Yeah, but I think that's, I think the board has to keep in mind that what has happened for other uses, the building inspector would make a determination that, well, this is close to that. Say the concrete issue. It started out as a holding source, and then it worked into a crushing operation, and the building inspector was the one who obviously handled that and agreed to it. So if this goes into, it's medical now, we're working on medical, and then the building inspector decides, well, it's not that much different from
I have a
legalizing.
feeling if it's legal, there's gonna be a whole ZBA thing about, like, liquor stores,
But this
where
is-
they can be, but what I'm saying is, that's a different issue than this.
Yeah.
This is explicitly, narrowly defined medical
Yeah.
marijuana.
That's,
And so if other laws change, well, the other laws change, but this bylaw is gonna stay the
the
same.
state might just say, well, the towns only have the authority to designate a district in their town, and that would be the guidance they would give us, to just make sure that you have you have an area in your zoning district that would meet the requirements based on a town road, and that these would just roll over into that legalization of marijuana. That was my concern, and have you had any guidance about that?
Well, it hasn't happened yet, so we don't know, but I would,
November is coming.
I mean, I think their point is well taken, that, if the passes on the ballot states regulation of the sale of it is still an issue we don't know anything about. And this is a very narrowly defined use. It's defined, the special permit looks to the state regulations with carefully define what this use is. That vote will not change the terms of the special permit one bit. So, according to the special permit, if it's legalized in November, the use that's allowed on that site under the special permit is exactly the use stated in here. It's not gonna,
So if this
doesn't,
fellow
it doesn't
wants to,
expand to legalization of marijuana.
you know, just, if he wants to participate in the legalization of it as an applicant of the medical, he could come into the building inspector and request that he wants a permit for legalization.
Depends what the zoning bylaws say.
And we don't have anything but this on the books.
Exactly.
So that's why I'm saying,
But
this would be
They're
the
not-
only thing
but
we have to
they would have
follow
to give up
through.
their nonprofit status, and the applicant holder is this nonprofit entity. that
Yeah.
Is not going to be able to just sell
Yeah,
marijuana.
you have to reorganize.
So they'd have
and-
to, there'd have to be a new entity created,
Mm-hmm.
and then that new entity wouldn't be the holder of a special permit. So
I don't see
I'm
this
not
as-
sure
So-
that those two are.
So we
So bring-
really have to pay attention
In
to
November.
what does come down the pike about legalization.
So bringing this back to number 12, where is the board with regards to that?
Right?
I'm kind of with you. I don't think that we're, if this were CVS, we wouldn't be asking for it. And I'm not sure that I necessarily, I mean, all these entities are going to get the information without this provision, so.
And if this is the text in what's cited here,
It is, I copied that directly
yeah,
out
I
of the
think
regs.
I'm good with this then. I had a couple of questions that are really addressed right here.
So what am I hearing between the two? You guys are in agreement, or
I'm not sure we are.
I don't think you are.
My apologies, Mr. Chairman, that was my daughter.
I'm happy to take it out. I'm happy to leave it in. I think if it were exclusively up to me, I would take it out.
Catch me up?
We're still on number 12, and we're basically, there seems to be a sense of, we're either gonna strike the whole thing, or it seems to be good the way it is. And I don't know if you can respond upon that now,
I like it, I wrote it for a reason, I like to leave it in.
okay? And Tilly?
No, I would leave it in too.
All right, you all right?
Yeah, absolutely. Discussion, I'll, of course, defer anyway, but I'm doubly deferring to the board.
Double defer. I haven't heard that one tonight. Just double defer.
Number 12 is good. Gonna go on, 13.
Pretty much the cousin of 12, right?
I'm okay with 13.
Okay?
Yeah,
For things that occur that are a little more grievous than just an incident. It's the ugly cousin.
I didn't even
You didn't.
mention
I don't
it.
have it
I know,
circled.
I know.
Yeah,
don't
I
have
didn't
it
even
circled.
mention it, so.
You guys okay with 13? All right, Tilly?
Yeah.
13, okay, Harry, 13?
14?
13 is okay, Andrea.
14, I believe,
Just trying to-
I don't believe anyone will have a problem with it, but I would like to see that move to section 8. Section 8 should be. I gotta get my glasses. Way towards the end, on page 8 is section 8. Call it section 8.
Expiration of approval?
Expiration.
Yep, that's fine.
That would be the better place
Is
for it.
everybody all set with that? It's just moving
On
number 8
to page
8 of
8.
9, under expiration of approvals, 8. It does belong there.
Moving number 14 to,
I mean 14, excuse me.
To page 8.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Moving 14
Moving
to 8?
14.
to page 8.
8 of 9.
under
expiration.
expiration of approval.
Under.
Just going, in number 6, I'm gonna reference back to that section with the pavement.
Yeah, yeah. I have a question about 14. we've got added context now in terms of the pavement, but I don't understand the purpose of this. We don't generally require we don't generally state that a special permit lapses within a certain period of time, I don't think, do we? Why are we doing that for this?
That's a requirement in the
State law.
bylaw.
It is, okay.
No, it's not state, that's our local bylaw.
For a
I don't
special
believe it's
permit.
State at all.
It's in
And
the
then,
law.
It's
It
our local
just- it's
bylaw.
just in our-
and then they would just come in and start all over again. Here's the drawings of what we've done and as built. and
120 days
We're doing the
before
same
the
thing.
expiration,
Cool.
they
To
come
renew
in
it
and they
if the
say, can we
state
do
is
this
well in
again?
5 years.
Every 5 years, all right.
Yeah.
At that point, maybe we'll have recreational
Okay.
use.
We already went down that
Wait, just, I
road,
guess
Harry,
it's
while you were
like-
gone.
If,
Yeah,
if
recreational
the board
use.
took longer than 120 days, would that like put us in jeopardy of operating?
No, good question. Be submitted and be
We'll just be
submitted.
shut down.
It's okay.
We get it, we'll be evicted from the town.
5 years and 4
Chief
months.
Cudmore will
Put a
come.
big chain up. you know.
At least 120 days prior to and with, prior to and decision made prior to.
Well, nothing stops them from coming in more than 120 days, right?
So 3 months before the closing date. Does that sound
4
like?
months.
Bear in mind, that's in our bylaw. So,
Yeah, no,
you know, that's a copy paste, basically.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, I'm good with it.
15?
I have that one circled.
Yeah, so this was just more of a clarification, and it's really kind of more of a temporal thing. The permit holder ceases operating the RMD. Should we put a qualification as, I think we all know what operating the RMD means to us, but does it mean that the new planning board comes in and is really opposed to the use, and we're shut down for Christmas and Kwanzaa. Now we've not operated the RMD on those days, and this, gives them,
For a continuous period of more than 30 days.
yeah, I mean, and I
It's a
think
reasonable time for you.
30 days.
30
sure.
days?
Yeah.
Okay. 30
I think the
days.
name of the person, Nathaniel Averill, should be there.
I absolutely disagree with you on that.
Boy,
Because the nature of corporations is that people come and go, but the corporation is who we're granting a special permit to.
The thing is, the name can be sold.
yeah, that's,
Doesn't the
a nonprofit.
Secretary of State require
It's
that
whatever
it
the
be a
charter is
nonprofit corporation in order to operate a registered marijuana?
It's the Department of Public Health, and it was actually the law passed by the voters in 2012 requires us to be a nonprofit corporation. That's the operator. And it actually, yeah, so it does.
And with all due respect, if he gets hit by a bus tonight, what happens then?
Right.
It's the corporation that has the permit.
So let's,
because I think that, like I said before, this is not like anything else we've ever had a use for. And that's why you have to be more precise and restrictive and cautious, I would think. And that's why I think by having his name there, you've got a person to contact. And if the new name appears, then that person becomes familiar with the process and what we expect of the whole operation. It's just not handed over and, and money changes hands. It's
Okay.
to familiarize the new person with the bylaw.
so I like it the way it's written. Matt, how about you?
I do too.
Bob?
On balance, yeah.
Harry?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to stay with it. I do understand the concerns though, Tilly.
I do.
Right, and I mean, I have my own concerns along the same lines, but
Just adding in.
I'm
the
just trying
30-day
I'm just
period.
trying to move it
Yep.
along, cause it's now 8:45.
And just, Ms. Evangelista, if it helps, the DPH is gonna thoroughly vet, in the event that, God forbid, something happened in that, his replacement would be vetted thoroughly by the Department of Public Health, so that we were not just swapping somebody in for the operators that they spend a long time doing background checks, national, state, Corey,
And we can't
internet.
sell the corporation.
And the registration itself is non-transferable. So it's not like a liquor store or a
so you
bar.
can't- you basically can't sell.
You
it.
can't sell it. You can't transfer. It's non-transferable. So if that helps to calm.
It does.
Okay.
Board could vote a new president
All right.
for
Great.
16.
Just one
please.
other thing I want to point out in 15, just to hold off any future. It does say ceases operating the RMD, and I think that's well taken. If the business were to close for reasons of repair or damage, that's not a cessation of operation. It's still, they're still working the business there. Cease operating means they're not running the business at all. So for future reference, that's the difference, and it's also the protection for the permittee.
Special permit lapse on the expiration or termination of the registration by the Department of Public Health.
Yep.
That's a no-brainer, right? Permit holder notifies the zoning enforcement officer and the planning board within 48 hours of a cessation of operation and the expiration or the termination of the permit holder's registration with DPH. Good stuff.
Yeah, based on council's, what I just heard, we're fine. It was just the operation of the RMD part that, but I'm fine with it, based on what I just heard.
18, I didn't write that. What is that?
It's excess
Where did that come
irrigation,
from?
water before it
That's-
leaves the
That was a
ground.
concern that I had about fertilizer getting into the groundwater. It might be advantageous to test as it's going into the septic, rather than assuming that it's fine by calculation.
So do you wanna add that to 7 up in front? We were talking about that.
Seven or-
And I mean, that could be periodic, I mean, I'm not, I think that is the spot.
Kind of,
You mean number 2?
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, this really ties into what you have been saying, that this is a special kind of operation that, I mean, if they were growing carrots and doing the same thing, I would have the same concern.
So number 2 now reads, the proposed use shall not cause increase in drainage or water flow to leave site, cause changes in the groundwater levels, or increase runoff to the potential for flooding to adjoining lands or lands and roads. We could add another sentence to that end. The excess irrigation shall be tested periodically.
To what standard? By whom?
Yeah.
Who will the report go to? What's the effect?
No, good
if it's
questions.
ever- Yeah.
how are
No,
you
it's
gonna
a-
know it's excess?
Big. There's a lot to that.
Excess irrigation.
How are you gonna know what's excess?
Well, I think maybe it's not about excess, maybe it's just testing the irrigation with regard to fertilizers, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, and any other elements. And so basically, you're just asking, you take the water and it goes to an independent testing lab and they test it for XXX and they tell you what they've got. It doesn't necessarily tell you it's in excess or not, and I don't know where or who would determine that, but that would be the process to how that would happen.
And what's standard, I mean, so it comes back screaming in nitrogen, all right, what
Pays
happens?
for it.
They've tested, they've met their obligation, they tested it. Who do they report it to? I mean,
Well, I mean, it could go.
I
it could-
understand the intent of what you're saying.
Right, right.
Yeah, there's gotta be a little bit more there.
So you're not testing that. And see, I don't know who has the standard for what would be considered excess in that situation.
Well, if I started pouring Scott's Miracle Grow,
Yeah.
and in the street, and I know it's gonna run down to the Parker River,
Yeah.
somebody would have a kitten.
Yeah, no,
But I don't know who.
yeah,
I
no,
don't
you're
know.
right.
Or presumably the Raleigh Water Department, the Georgetown Water Department, they would
They would have
presumably-
standards, yeah.
They would presumably have standards and presumably have jurisdiction over this anyway, correct?
You'd have a lot of
Water
trees and brush and plantings.
I mean, Bob,
that?
so what happens with the nutrients, like for Pentucket Pond, it's, the only reason they know there's an excess of whatever for nutrients in there is because of, a response that the
Yeah.
pond has had.
Yeah.
But I don't, and so the way they deal with that is, no more septic systems and so on and so forth. I don't,
But again, this is a special.
You would have to hold
well,
it to the
so
standard.
maybe it's not,
Appendix B, remember Appendix B?
maybe it's not the fertilizers you're so much concerned about as something else?
No, it's,
perhaps?
it is, it's specific,
fertilizer?
yeah,
The nitrogen load.
yeah.
Yeah. And the presumptions from your calculations in that appendix that you provided,
That's correct.
had certain presumptions there and certain amounts.
Yeah, I think it was 78 milligrams per liter.
So there's your standard. So there's your standard to measure it against.
So what happens?
So you
Yeah.
measure it, you get the results,
Okay,
and if
so
it's in excess
site-
of those
sightseeing or something,
standards.
that's- You know what I'm saying?
My question would be, if this was another business, if this was CVS, like you said, would there be a condition to stop them from having the greenest lawn?
Maybe not
Possible.
CVS, but.
Oh, I'm
Joe's-
sorry, just any-
Joe's Farm Stand, perhaps.
sorry, you know,
Yeah,
I just-
yeah,
but-
I can certainly understand it if it was any other growing
was-
facility.
The thing is, you're not a farm. You're a healthy farm, but you're not a farm.
But no, I'm not even
Um,
saying as a farm. It would be far higher concentrations, higher application rate if I called a lawn treatment service and went out and you went in there and they had the greenest, most lush lawn you've ever seen. You're talking about a much higher rate if you were just putting pellet fertilizer down that's gonna be out there. These are mixed to
So would it work where, so you've, in the report, you've stated X amount?
and we stated dilution as well, based off of the water use.
Okay,
Maybe just, if we exceed the water use on the septic, which would be required anyway to, see, the septic was designed for a certain volume per day. We did the calculations based off that, saying that, all right, based off of that volume of water and our, amount of,
let's call those, let's call those,
32,000 square
those are the
area, yeah.
those are the base
Yeah.
assumptions that have been made per your report.
basically, if we're not exceeding the water use for the septic, we're not exceeding the discharge going to, so, and that's public record, any person here could look
What
up
does
their,
that have to
their
do
water
with the
use.
concentration of the amount that's going
Because it's
into
based
that
off,
volume?
it's, the calculation from DEP is based off of a discharge in the groundwater, not exceeding 10 milligrams per liter at the down gradient property line. And that's based off of a dilution factor of your annual rainfall over the available recharge area.
At 32,000 square feet.
Okay.
So,
You're saying the volume of water going in, and we're talking about a concentration of an addition to that water. So the volume wouldn't have to go up for your concentration to go up.
the
Right, I have-
concentration though.
I have time, just time out. So it's 10:09, and we have, a number of more pages to go. And-
Motion to kill it.
Well, one sec.
Kill 18.
One sec, let me finish. And what I'd like to do is, suggest that 18 is an item that, we're not gonna resolve this tonight. That's pretty clear. We're not gonna get through all of this tonight.
Oh, we can do it. I know we can do it. I know we can do it.
We have no comments on the rest of it.
If not, we have to change.
So
We
we'll-
wanna
we'll
change
be
that-
quiet.
That March 9th thing.
Are you confident on
I'm
the rest of
confident
it,
we're
Harry?
gonna fly
that-
now. We're gonna fly.
And we're keeping our mouth shut for the rest of it. We mostly promise.
Moving in that
All right,
direction. Kill
then-
9th, kill
all right,
18.
My
then-
concern
then
with
I- Then
18
then if that is what the board's pleasure is, to try to do that, remembering what we have for the rest of the meetings coming up. If that's what the board is, I'm there. I'd love to get this done too. So then we need to resolve 18. I just wanted to.
And I don't really have any other questions other than this.
Okay, so,
The issue with me with 18 is that the calculations are great, but mistakes happen.
okay,
This is an engineering issue, mistakes happen.
So what I don't understand as I'm listening, why can't the testing simply confirm it's meeting the assumptions?
Perfect.
Or not?
That's
And
all.
if it's not, then the applicant is responsible to make corrections immediately.
Perfect. Simple.
Don't
Yeah,
worry.
I want to keep this simple, believe me.
Okay, did you get that?
Keep it to the applicant. Test.
Healthy farms shall test,
How often?
shall test, annually
Okay,
for nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and,
Hold on. Okay.
and,
pH.
and evaluate test results, compared to report, I forget what the report was called, how we could,
Nitrogen loading calculations.
could, per
Thanks,
the
Steve.
applicant's nitrogen loading calculations submitted. And if in excess, shall correct the situation immediately.
I like it.
I do too. I'm happy with that.
I would think that would be an automatic, that anybody that grows anything, if they're losing all the fertilizer, they're wasting their fertilizer.
I'm not worried about it because I think
Matt?
after you get your excess, you're gonna start
The
recycling.
the only other,
Yeah,
the
we
only
got a
other
lot of money
part
to
that I
make.
would add in
Yeah.
that is if the testing is done by an independent testing lab.
That would be the way to do it.
Okay,
Follow-up testing every,
and annual,
well, if it's found to be elevated, follow-up testing every 30 days.
until corrected. Yeah,
Yeah.
every 30 days until corrected. Good. Good. Okay.
This next, paragraph here, further, the planning board finds, blah, blah, blah,
Site
to the
plan.
following conditions.
Yep.
Strike that,
Yep,
okay, we're killing that.
yep,
That work for everybody?
yep.
And we're going directly to one, prior to sign off on the building permit. Final site plans of requested by the planning board must be issued on Mylars, it goes without saying. Planning board endorses the application with signatures. Applicant submits the decision to the town clerk for the 20-day appeal period.
Yep.
Right, good.
I had no
Paper-
issues here. Can I use the corner of the
Absolutely.
office here?
Paper copy of the signed recorded requested by the planning board, delivered to the planning office.
Yep.
Okay, do we wanna add, a PDF of the plans? Shall be sent to the
Sure,
planning board?
sure, that's easy.
To the planning board?
Yep, including a PDF.
Yep.
Rob, could I just
Please.
interject here before we get too far from the conditions? I think the Abutters Council made one particularly good point. The part about responses to the engineer's comments, the board has essentially said we want the applicant to comply, and they've said they will comply, that they're gonna incorporate those changes in their plans. It doesn't say anything in here specifically, so it wouldn't be a bad idea to have a condition basically saying, listing the engineer's comments and saying, you know, the applicant will comply with these and incorporate them in their, you know, their plan. So that it's clear that the documents that you get from your consulting engineer, that those essentially are becoming part of the site plan, so-called, that they will follow those recommendations.
Where are you at?
No, it's not in
This
here.
could be- this
I'm
could
saying
be-
it
this
should,
could be
it's a
nine-
good
this
idea
could
to
be-
have it in here if that's
This
your
could be
intent.
19.
Right.
John, would you be so kind as to say that again for Matt?
I don't have the dates of, there's been 2 or 3 of these, has there not, at least, where you've responded? There's
Yeah.
been back and forth on that.
I had made a note for a suggestion on section 9, documents considered in decision.
Right.
Section B, Roman numeral 2.
What page are you on, please?
Page 8 of 9,
Okay.
just incorporating the March 2nd letter, which is the only one that's missing.
Documents considered in decision.
And I would say considered as part of the decision.
Right, this is owner provided. I was thinking of the response of the board's consulting engineer. Are those listed here as well?
No.
Should
I
be.
think they are.
Can
Yeah,
we-
they should just be listed here.
Can they be
Well,
listed?
no,
under-
they would have been, because that would be part of the documents submitted during the public hearings.
So documents considered in decisions, that would be an okay place to put those?
If deemed part of the decision, Right. I
But-
think you can
but
put it
you're-
there,
you're-
but.
You're saying something separate, though. You're saying not just the documents are considered, but you're saying that we should add a condition that they comply with that.
They comply with the recommendations of the board's consulting engineer as set forth in, and then whatever those dates of those letters were. And I think they've already said they'll do that, and they have done it. Or if they haven't added it to the plans, they're going to do it. So
What-
it's just a matter of,
What is that next sentence? The following planning board provided information shall be deemed part of the decision. See there? Number one, site plan and special review report number one, dated November 19th, on page 9 of 9. Is that where it would be appropriate?
that'd be fine, yeah, I think so.
That way you'd add it? Because it was a second review, right?
Yeah, I don't know what the
Second
dates were,
review?
yet. I didn't count them.
Yeah, because he did submit a letter at the last.
December 9th. It's December 9th. It was resubmitted December 9th.
Larry Graham's second letter?
Oh,
Oh, his second letter was at the last hearing. He provided it that day. So that would have been the 23rd of February?
2 weeks ago today.
You're sorry I brought this up.
Not at all. No.
Where are we putting it now? I'm kind of mixed up where it's at. Is it gonna be number 19?
It-
Is it gonna be back here?
It seems like a good go there. Wherever
Larry
you want to
Graham's
put it.
letter was February 24th.
Let's just add that, Harry, to page 9 of 9.
Absolutely. February 24th?
Yeah.
2000.
So we're adding it there, but we're also adding it as number 19. Applicant shall comply with the board's consulting engineer's letter dated February 24th, 2000.
Recommendations as set
Recommendation.
forth in, right.
Okay. I'm good with that. Since you typed it already anyway.
So applicants complying with technical review agents' reports and recommendations dated such and such and such and such.
November 19th and February 24th, right? November 19th, 2015, and
And
February
that's,
24th.
that's number 19.
Great.
Just gonna write the number.
That's 19.
Great job, Matt, by the way. Thanks so much.
Above and beyond, brother. Are we at number 2? Prior to the start of and during construction?
Yes.
Well, are we gonna add any more conditions that I was?
Oh, did you want more? Okay.
That was the one about the fire department. They wanted, the applicant shall install a lockbox for keys to the facility as well as keys for all areas in the building
That was
for
a
the Georgetown
recommendation.
Fire Department. And then the other request from the fire department was the applicant shall upgrade the fire alarm panel to the specifications of the Georgetown Fire Department.
Can we just add as 20, applicant will comply with that letter? Whatever that letter was from the fire department?
With, who's the?
A letter from the fire chief?
Yeah.
I don't recall
What's the date on that letter?
what that letter was.
I didn't put a date on it. I'll find it for you.
Exhibit I,
I'll
I
have
have
to
it
get
here.
back to you.
That's
I'll
fine.
hold it up now.
I'll just put a blank there for now.
So for 20, that's,
Applicant will comply with the recommendations of the blank letter
Here it
from the
is,
Georgetown.
February 9th,
February 9th.
yeah,
February
2016.
9th. Okay, thank you.
okay.
Did you have any others, Joe?
The one, the authorized personnel that you were gonna notify, the applicant shall provide an update and authorized personnel employed by the Healthy Farms. And then the second, one was that.
I'm sorry, Till, I didn't hear you. What was that?
The authorized, list was gonna be provided for authorized personnel, and updated, those persons authorized and employed by the Healthy Farms.
To whom was that list?
We were
from?
going to get a list.
We or the police chief?
Um,
I thought it was the police chief.
whatever. And the,
Because what we take is public record. I don't think they want to give something in public record of the list of people that has access to their facility. Correct?
well, maybe, it would be a good idea for the police to know that.
We'd have no objection to keeping the police informed as to our employees. If it's, it could,
21.
if
Could be
it's,
as on request, I mean,
Yeah.
we're happy to do it, but,
So that he knows who's
Yeah.
in the place or on
Sure.
the premises. I
Sure.
don't see, that's a big deal. But we do, I think lists
they
would
all
be
get
good.
background
Yeah.
checked by the DPH, so.
yeah,
If you like that, I'm not gonna object to that.
Yeah, and then,
So upon request,
Provide a list
provide a list, please.
with the Georgetown Police Department.
and then there was I thought we didn't, you talked about it, the Mass DOT, or that was Larry's letter. He wanted some kind of a paper from Mass DOT about the excess way.
Yeah, we
They've
agreed
already,
to.
they've responded.
That's in that, yeah.
That was in their response.
in the March 2nd response.
Yeah.
On the March 2nd,
So, number one.
but we didn't put it anywhere here.
No, and we wouldn't because it's too much in the air.
Well, it's incorporated in 19, correct?
And then we didn't address the
Not
fence.
really, but
It's on the,
6-foot fence.
it's on the plan.
You don't have to, you don't feel, that you will keep maintaining it? It's on the plan, yeah, but it's, who's gonna keep it up and, you know?
Well, I mean,
do you wanna go back and add that to 6? And the fence? Or, what do you think of
Permit
that?
holders shall maintain the fence in good working condition.
I like that.
Just,
We
I
all
assume
set
there's
to it?
no
Can
comment
we
on
go
the
to?
Yeah, I don't wanna,
Prior to the start of and during construction now, or any more additional?
No, that's all I got.
Great. Do we really need a one of the unique things about this decision is it's a direct copy from our subdivision decision, and a lot of it is just, because it's an existing building, they just don't apply.
Yeah,
No pre-construction meeting needs to be held, so I
No,
say get rid of A,
yeah,
right?
and B, you can get rid of.
well, no, it's.
No, I'm
B
good for
stays.
keeping B.
B
I'm good for
stays.
keeping B.
B becomes,
want B.
B becomes
Yeah.
A.
are we still the applicant at this point? Or are we the permit holder?
I think we should move everything to permit holder throughout the whole document.
Okay.
Anybody object?
That's fine.
And I'll define it in the very beginning of the document. Permit holder shall be,
Healthy Farms, Inc.
Okay. And then, C, we don't need that,
Yeah,
the
we don't
next
need
one.
that. We can kill C, right?
Yeah, D, E,
We can kill D,
F,
E,
G,
G, H.
I left H now.
Left H? We're gonna have him check the trenches, the phone cables, everything's in already.
Everything's there,
Everything's in already.
okay,
Kill an H?
yeah.
I don't think we need a monthly summary of construction activity or.
The only thing with,
detail.
the only thing with electrical would be lighting.
Yeah, but that's all, they're talking about the trenches, those are the poles.
Underground,
And I understand where you are, and,
I think what you're talking about, Rob, is covered in the site engineer's inspector's letter, those two letters.
and in the photometric plan, right?
Right. But it's that plan that they said they will do, I'm just saying that when that gets built, someone's gotta be taking a look at it.
Is
I
that
think
prior
that's
to
the
occupancy permit?
Local electrical inspector is gonna, local electrical inspector is gonna oversee the trenching of light poles.
Oh, they will oversee it, but the technical review agent will be the one responsible for verifying.
I know where you're going, but wouldn't that be prior, in number 5?
Correct. Wrong number. Yep, you're correct.
Okay. We don't need monthly summaries, we don't need I, right? And, do we need as-bills? Why do we need as-bills?
no,
So kill J?
So for 2, we're striking everything except for B.
I can
stockpiling
see,
of
yeah.
materials, no,
Okay.
I don't see that.
You good?
Yep.
And the next one, it's not,
Stockpiling, you're killing that one? constructing operation.
Strike four.
Does the hours for construction, 7 AM to 7 PM, is that okay with everybody? Monday
Yep.
through Thursday?
That's all right.
Call, dig safe, be safe.
Yep.
It's on the plans.
And kill D,
I don't think they killed Ada, did they?
we're killing D?
I don't know
Yeah.
Why don't
what
we do that?
happens with, lighting, if lighting requires some utilities underground
We're not gonna put them underground, are we?
So four, keep all.
for power.
Yeah, we can keep all four. A, B, C, and D under 4?
I would,
Keep.
yeah.
Okay.
You wanna keep C?
Prior to issuance of verification of occupancy permit, could I just add as something for the building inspector, could we put in parentheses after that, see also special conditions? Because we did call out a couple of special conditions prior to occupancy permit, right? Just as a call out to the BI, because sometimes they flip through permits and go right to that, right? Applicant must submit a letter, basically saying that we're in compliance with the plans.
Yeah, that's a
And
good
is
one.
the lighting, is that part of that, Rob, under A?
Mm,
Mm-hmm.
Is that what?
That's there.
Does that
That's-
handle your
that's there.
concern?
Yeah, yeah,
that's
there.
good.
Great, so we keep A? Everybody's good? Site complies with the applicable state and building codes and the fire flow tests? No brainer, right? Proof of site improvement plans?
No, we don't have any.
To submit proof of site improvement plans approved by the planning board as
The registration.
have it recorded at the registry. Okay, weird way of saying it, but works for me.
But are those the sheet, those aren't the sheets, are they?
Well, that's why it's not, it's C1, 2, 3, 4, and the lighting plan, but we don't know the dates. What are the dates of the final approved plans?
They'll be revised through. I can. Why don't we put them for
Pick a date down the road that's
Revised
just
through-
comfortable.
March 13th or something like that? What's next
Monday's the
Wednesday?
14th.
March 14th?
That's fine. So you just,
March
those will be what they'll be dated.
14. So we make that change there, and we also make that 2 pages later? On 9? Is that where it is? Where is it? Somewhere else. It must be somewhere else.
8 of 9,
8 of 9?
9A.
Good man. Plan set's titled, right? March 14th, 9/8, March 14th. Right?
Are those the only drawings? See, is that it?
And can I get a PDF?
I'm thinking
set?
I was, were those the only drawings?
I believe so.
That was it?
There's a one landscape sheet and then.
Okay.
D and D, do we need that? We're talking about as-bills again. Kill D, striking D, right? Keep E in,
Keep E.
just in case.
Yeah.
And F, kill F.
Now, are there any,
Keep it.
is there anything going on in the interior that the, building inspector needs to get an as-built of?
The only thing would be the rain gardens that I can think of.
No,
And the
on-
drain.
Interior.
Oh,
On
the
the, on the,
interior.
on the interior?
I think
Floor drains,
pictures of the floor drains.
plumbing.
Maybe power is sufficient, right? I mean, if we show them,
I'm just thinking that final
like that.
as-built interior information, as required by the, building inspector.
I think E is a good one.
Shall be, needs to be submitted prior to the issuance.
Building inspector requires it prior to certificate of occupancy. I think they're gonna
Well,
provide
I'm just
it.
saying, if you strike final as-built plans out,
Final elevations and layout of the site improvements
yeah.
must be approved by the planning board and the site inspection engineer. I don't know if we've ever done that
We
before.
don't need, no, we don't need that.
Yeah, for an existing building,
Yep,
right?
Yep. I'm just, what I'm asking is, by eliminating that, is it also eliminating that we're saying you don't need to do as-built on the interior? That's all I'm saying.
when I see final elevations, I start thinking of architecture.
See, I would have read that more as the site itself,
That's
like if
good.
you propose.
That's fine. All right, if everybody thinks that, that's fine.
Move on to 6 provisions, right? Conditional approval, I don't know where we're talking about conditional approval here. It's an approval, right?
No,
Killing A?
yeah,
There are no successors or assigns an interest.
This is conditional approval, you got conditions to your approval, so.
Right, but we're not dealing with successors and assigns an interest, right?
Correct. Yeah, you're not allowing this to be assigned, so.
Right. We're killing that. Action by a board, commission, department requires changes, may be subject to mods by the planning board.
Yeah.
No brainer, right? Any revisions, send them to us. We'll put you through the whole process again, drive you insane, charge you another fee. Other special conditions, decision doesn't invalidate, I like that, that's a nice one. Provisions of the conditional approval shall apply and be binding on the applicant. We gotta kill that, right?
Well, it's
Gotta kill B.
conditioned, not, if we're gonna keep it, it's not a conditional approval, it's a conditioned approval.
Right, but we're not assigning,
Correct.
right?
Yep, yep.
And like John said, it is conditional, but we're killing B from 7B. That's a kill, that's a
Yep.
bye-bye. Action by the town
A
board.
was staying,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, A staying, and C is the same as 6C behind us that we just did, right? It's the same exact thing, same wording, isn't it? So we can eliminate that, right? Beautiful. Expiration of approval, we already added that other section from further up, right? Site plan approval, special permit deemed to have lapsed by March 9th, 2018, if you don't do anything. And we
We'll
have to-
change that to the date that we actually do the approval. You want to see the Mylars, you want to?
Well, the approval was.
Could be tonight.
It could be tonight.
Cool.
Could be
Hopefully
tonight.
the approval's tonight.
Yeah, we fixed the date for the plan set, right?
Healthy Farms.
Healthy Farms, that's your address, isn't it? Your,
Yep.
your working address?
Do we have you right, Hayes Engineering?
That's correct.
Applicant testimony, we're not lying when we say March 9th. If I make a motion.
I just have one question. The hearings of October 28th, that's before this particular application was submitted, right?
That's incorrect.
Yep.
Good
Catch.
catch.
Letters issued by V.
Well, what's the real
VR,
date?
dates. December 9th was the
December
date.
9th.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have to plug in December 9th there, right?
Oh, it's in there?
So you think you just
Just
strike?
get rid of continued to dates,
Yeah.
just say hearings of December 9th.
And then his letter from November 3rd, is that still part of the record? Even though it was, I assume it still is.
She wrote a letter on the 9th.
We resubmitted it on the,
So the November 3rd letter, I think it's just gets stricken, right?
And maybe the December 9th, Andrea, was the day that we withdrew and resubmitted, right?
yeah, but
So maybe we would also strike the December 7th
Yeah,
letter as
we
December
well.
issued
7th
that-
goes away. right?
that was the one that had the new plans. That's what started the second hearing.
Oh,
Yeah, I
okay.
think he was
And
right.
then-
I think the 7th
And
stays.
Yeah,
That's
the
okay,
seven
yeah,
stays.
if it was
Yeah.
dated earlier.
Okay.
That was the letter, the cover sheet for.
Yeah, that's right, and I just hadn't done that before, yep.
You lost me on that, you got it?
Site plan
And
special.
site plan special permit review report number 1 dated the 19th of November. And testimony at public hearings, right? And we're also adding the February 24th date for the review, his second review, Larry Graham's.
Was that December 2nd?
isn't this the one we have to put in December?
What was Larry's letter dated?
This last one was February 24th. He wrote the day of the.
Do we know what the first one was, Andrew? On that one?
First one was indeed November 19th.
It was
He wrote
November
2000, yep, it's November 19th.
2015.
Yeah, the letter actually it's dated kind of funky.
That's his first one.
We probably want to include.
I mean, you know,
Yeah.
if it matters, I don't know if, Andrea, you're on it.
2011 on it, but
Yeah.
it wasn't.
We know, yeah. We haven't been here that long.
So B2 also gets the addition of the Hayes letter,
March 2nd.
March 2nd,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Yeah, it includes the insurance certificates.
Anything written by anybody other?
Mr. Chairman, if you'll hear it, I'll make a motion to close the hearing for Healthy Farms. Special permit application and site.
That's fine.
I'll second it.
All right, motion's been made and it's been seconded to close the public hearing. Any discussion? Any no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Now the
now
hearing's
let's go.
closed. As an order of business, can we just ask that Andrea types up that decision and presents it to us at our next meeting?
Oh, you just did?
Can we have
Can we?
Jonathan review it after she gets it
I
all
think
done?
definitely,
I
definitely.
like that idea, just
I-
check for the
game plan.
T's and the I's and all that. I like that. Good, good.
Send you
You're
my
doing a
notes.
good job, John.
Yeah. Are you gonna take a vote on it tonight, or are you gonna wait till the decision is?
We should wait till the decision, I think, right?
I don't have any problem, I'd just as soon take a vote tonight, unless you have a strong feeling one way or the other, John.
No, I think you've,
We've done it,
unless there's some
No, we have to do it
uncertainty
tonight.
about what the conditions are, but it sounds if there's no uncertainty, you can vote on what your understanding is and approve the decision.
Yeah, other than that, we'll have to change that March 9th date. Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the decision with the conditions that we created tonight at this meeting.
Second.
motion has been made to approve the, Healthy Farms certificate of vote, special permit approval with conditions as amended this evening. Any discussion? No discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thank you very much, folks.
Thank you, really, thank you.
Been nice knowing you.
Yeah, well,
See you around.
yes, we will be around, so.
5 years.
Thank you very, really, thank you for the diligence and the thought on this. I mean it. It's-
Well presented.
To yours,
What's that?
to yours.
Great.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a
5 minute
motion for a
recess?
5-minute
Yeah.
recess?
Let them wait for 5 minutes.
Figured out today, when I sat down tonight, I realized why. Last time I
same materials and justify it.
Yeah, no, well, that, I agree.
Okay, we are on. All right, welcome everybody back to the Georgetown Planning Board. We're on, Tilly. We're gonna reopen the March 9th, 2016 hearing. We have just completed the Healthy Farms public hearing. And we're gonna move to the preliminary subdivision plan for Chaplain Hills Road. And looking for motion to open the public hearing.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Okay, it's been motioned and seconded to open Chaplain Hills public hearing, preliminary subdivision plan. My understanding is we have a letter from the applicant, is that correct?
Yes.
Should we read the public notice,
Is it in the meeting supplement?
Mr.
It's
Chairman?
the first,
Yeah, we should.
it's the first,
Where-
letter in the meeting supplement?
First, meeting supplement. Where is that
Here, I'll give you-
pack?
Rob, if I may, it's just it's the next one.
Huh?
Just-
Oh, you've got it, all right. All right, good enough. Okay, so where is the notice? Do we have that notice, Andrea? For the public hearing?
Yes.
Thank you. So, public hearing notice in accordance with provisions, MGL Chapter 41, Section 81, Town of Georgetown, subdivision regs, Georgetown Planning Board will hold a public hearing March 9th, 2015, in the third floor meeting room at Georgetown Memorial Town Hall on the application submitted by Fred Fahey, Premier Property Group, Dracut, Mass, for approval of a preliminary subdivision plan regarding property described on map 4, lot 53, and map 10A, lot 9 in Georgetown. The preliminary subdivision plan consists of 30 proposed lots on a 123.45 acre parcel within the residential C zone district and is described in Registry of Deeds Book 6698. Copy of the application plan is on file, Georgetown Planning Office. It may be inspected Monday through Thursday. Any person interested or wishing to be heard regarding application should appear either in person, by agent, or by attorney at time and place designated. Howard Snyder, Town Planner. So, the letter that we have, I just want to read it into the record. The letter that we have is from Archie Onda and Associates, LP, RE Chaplain Hills, dated March 8th. Dear board members, we understand that the published notice regarding the subject project did not include notification of our OSRD special permit application. Therefore, on behalf of Premier, we are hereby requesting that the hearing scheduled March 9, 2016 for the subject project be continued to April 20th, 2016, or the next available date so that the preliminary subdivision and OSRD application can be heard simultaneously. We don't have a meeting on April 20th, it's April 27th. So basically, what we're looking for is a continuation. Thank you, Tilly.
Did we want to read the letters received?
Not at this point.
Rob, you didn't have a vote, you got a motion yet that you haven't voted on, which is to open the public hearing.
Oh, I thought, okay. Any discussion to open the public hearing? No discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, John.
And Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to continue the preliminary subdivision public hearing on the Chaplain Hills project to April 27th, 2016.
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Motion's been made and it's been seconded to continue the public hearing for Chaplain Hills to the April 27th, 2016 agenda. Any discussion? No discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving on to Palmer Lane, which is continued from February 24th. I could get a motion to open the hearing. Good evening.
Mr. Chairman, I move we open the public hearing regarding I'm sorry, this is Bailey Lane?
Palmer Lane.
This is
Palmer
Palmer.
Lane.
Second.
Motion's been made and it's been seconded to open the preliminary the Palmer Lane continued hearing from February 24th, 2016. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Abstain.
Unanimous? One abstain.
Mr. Chairman,
Sir?
we could, let the record show that, Harry Locatelli recuses himself from this and, leaves the room.
So noted.
Somebody wanna give me a jingle?
Sure.
Okay, so just a little bit of business, first. I was talking with Larry Graham, so we don't have a town planner, as you know. So I was talking with Larry Graham, and, he said that, you had submitted some revised plans to him. And, he in turn has, and you submitted those, Friday, I think it was, which was after our scheduled date. And then he turned to the planning office and said, I need a copy from you of those plans. He doesn't print them out there.
Right, he needs a hard
So,
copy, so I
yeah.
brought an extra hard copy for him, or do you want me to
Okay.
deliver it directly to
So,
him?
no, I don't think so. So I guess what I just wanted to get straight is, we can do one of two things. We can either continue this hearing and talk about the plans you've revised, or those plans that you've revised, they're not part of the discussion tonight. And we're talking about the previous set and Larry Graham's first letter.
That would be appropriate if you have time tonight.
Yeah, no, that was what the plan was. Just wanted
No,
to make sure you understood.
That's fine, because
Okay.
most of the changes we did were just drafting things that he suggested anyways.
Okay.
And the other issues that were in his original letter, which are waivers,
Yep.
things like that, that the board needs to have some input on, give us some input on, so.
So, if you want to, then, take 10 minutes, you were able to make a presentation last time, to make the presentation again if you like. And then what we'll do, and this is a presentation on, not the revisions that you've made, just the old setup. And then we'll go to the public.
Well, I believe you were all here at the last meeting that we had, so I really don't have to say too much about it. Otherwise, I'd just be repeating myself. So it's up to you if you want me to repeat myself, but I don't think I really have to. So
Appreciate
in
that.
interest of time, maybe we could just go to Mr. Graham's original letter and address, really, the things that are important would be the waivers that we had requested.
So I think what we'll do is we'll go to, with not having a presentation now, which I'm fine with, if the board is fine with that.
Yep.
You all okay? I'll go to the public.
That's fine.
See if they have any questions or comments right now, and then we'll come back to the board. And I guess the objective of this meeting is not to, we're gonna go around the board, and the members are going to give you their list of what their issues are.
That's fine.
And then we may or may not be able to come to consensus on some of the questions you may have, but it's not to resolve all of these tonight.
That's fine.
It's
That's
just so
fine.
you hear from all of us
Exactly.
where our issues are. Okay. So is there anyone from the public that wanted to ask any questions or? Okay. Seeing none, Matt, just because I'm turning right with my neck. Do you have anything you want to start off with?
The only issue that I have, and I drive by this property every day, this is why every time I drive by it, I look at it and I say, is there any way we could make this entryway any conducive? And I appreciate in the last presentation that you've expressed that you don't believe that it's going to be a problem, that perhaps there's even some very good evidence for that. That being said, I drive by it every day, and I'm frustrated by the intersection already. My one question is, this, your butter here, your neighbor here, is there any way that, has there been any outreach whatsoever to talk about purchasing just that little section of land for so that there's a little bit more distance between your entryway and the end of Tenny Street?
I don't know, I'm not sure I can answer that question. I know Steve had looked at that parcel of land to purchase, but I don't
It's
know
not
what the
available,
results of that was, but I know that he did look at that, but I don't know what the outcome of that was.
My partner and I did look at it. There was some discussion between, I believe, the Realtor and the property owner next door. And if I can defer for 1 second, Steve, didn't that property recently sell?
It did, and there was discussion with that owner at the time to sell that little strip. They were okay with it initially, but then there's been no further discussion with them since, let's see, months into the closing. I could certainly approach them and see if they want to sell it, if it's part of, part of the package.
So-
I'm not sure if they've changed their minds or not, but.
Yeah, where it changed hands, we kind of, had a discussion and then it went away because of the new owner and whatnot. But again, we can, take a brief look at that. I think at the time,
Can we, using this as an example, can we, just as we had that dialogue, and then just kind of leave it at, okay, so we're gonna look at that and not try to resolve it now? And then we'll come back to the next meeting?
Great.
Okay, great, thank you. And Andrea, you can get these points that the board members are making, they just, bullets are fine. Great, thanks.
That's my biggest concern, frankly, about the project.
Okay.
And so that's all I really have.
I share that concern. We are now developing in town Turning Leaf, which is adding additional traffic, and this is a tricky intersection. It's a tricky intersection onto East Main Street that it already poses challenges. I drive by that, not up Tenny Street, but just on East Main Street every day, coming home from work, and sometimes that's far more exciting at the end of the day than I would prefer. I noticed in Larry's write-up, he mentioned that there were no streetlights proposed, and I do think that that's something that should be considered. There was, I don't know what to make of the pet burial area and how that is to play out and the significance of it. I just don't know.
But I might add, it seems to be something that is worth talking about.
I think it is. There are, in the utility plan, there seemed to be a question of location of hydrants and where the services were going to be, water services were going to be coming from. Didn't I read something here about sidewalks as well?
Yep, you did, you recommended it.
Yeah, and I wanted to consider sidewalks there. I know where I live on West Street, boy, life would be much improved for me as a resident if there were sidewalks that went into town. This is also on the Larry's final page. Sheet 8 under construction sequence, activity shall begin at the fourth paragraph. Delete the reference to the entire site might be logged. Yeah.
We're taking care of that.
Fire hydrant, very good. Fire hydrant and the turning radius at the Y as well. Those are my concerns.
Excellent. Okay, Tilly?
I think this should be a pretty smooth application. I don't see that many serious things. The access way, you come up with another solution, that would be something to think about.
You mean the intersection?
Yeah, at the intersection. When we get to the waivers, I'm not too keen on that, connecting. I think you should connect to that sidewalk that is there on Tenny. When we get to talk about waivers, we'll go into that, I'm sure. But I like the idea of saving that historical building. That was a big plus. And I got a kick out of this cemetery. That's a first.
In just to, not that I want to rehash some of the pet burial area or areas,
Yeah.
because there may be more than one out there. But again, in the discussion with the woman that pointed them out to me, her intent of pointing them out to me was so that we knew they were there. In the event we came across skeletal remains, that it didn't hold up the project, and it,
Right.
we knew what was there. She just wanted to point it out to us. I don't think she really had any protection or monumentation of the
No.
burial areas in mind, because really, she was nice enough to point them out, and,
Yeah.
it was, well, I think there's one under that stone, and, that stone, and I know there's one here, and, whatever you can do, and that's the
It'd be
extent.
nice to
So
have a rock,
I think
with
it's kind of
engraved in
turned
there.
into something a little bit more than it needs to be.
Right.
I have to say, I really appreciate you taking the time to even comment on it.
Yeah.
It
Super.
was just kind of an off-the-cuff remark of one member of the public, and you've been very respectful of it, so I
Try to be as sensitive as we can.
Yeah, that's great. That's being a good neighbor.
Yeah. Many
Do what we
said
can.
I
they
appreciate
love
that,
pets.
yeah. That's, when we get to the waivers.
That was it, the waivers, the
Yeah.
last, okay. I'm just gonna go through a few things here. In Larry Graham's letter, he on page, this is his
Okay.
I guess he doesn't have page numbers, so it would be page 3. It's the last paragraph on 2, and it goes over to 3. The board may wish to require and review a homeowners association document that speaks to the requirement, and that paragraph is about maintenance and whatnot, and I'm one member that I think that's a good idea. The items number 7 and 8 on page 2, I concur with Bob, and in Larry's comment about no streetlights, and you would think at maybe the very least there would be one at the end of the project. The further definition of the no disturb, no cut, no build, Larry Graham's number 8, I want to emphasize and echo that comment. We'll get to the waivers, so that's my points agreeing with Larry's. I just want to confirm, all of the abutters were notified. We've taken care of the notifications. We're all up to speed with that, right?
Yes, I mean, that's
Yeah.
what we got the list from the town, so.
Yeah.
You gave us the green cards already?
If I can give them to you if you don't have
we
them.
don't have those.
You have, you have those? You don't? I believe I have them with
So
me.
could you make sure that
Yeah.
you give those
I'll
to
make
her
sure
at the
you
end of the
you
meeting?
get a copy, yeah.
Okay, great, thanks. So then we'll go over the waivers at the last. Historic's letter of February 2nd, 2016, I think there does need to be some sort of agreement or some sort of meeting of the minds between you and them. That would be very helpful for the board, and how you want to end up dealing with that.
As far as the building itself,
Yes.
I can bring you up to
Yeah.
speed with, in about 90 seconds if you like.
And just put it in writing, that's all. You know what I mean? If you have something that just put it in writing, that'd be great. That'd be great. The fire department, the fire chief's letter of February 25th, he has mentioned 3 chapters of the NFPA, and basically he's just pointing out the chapters, but we'll need another letter from him, which he's saying you have in fact met these criteria, because right now his letter's not doing that. That's just pointing that out. And have you contacted Highway Department for their review? And
I talked to Peter down there a
Yep.
couple of times.
Yep.
I haven't got anything written from him, but he looked over the plans and everything. I don't I don't know if he's got any comments. I did speak to Lou at the water department. He said he
Yeah.
met with the fire department. I don't know if it was the chief or assistant or whatever.
Yeah.
And he was going to give me some suggestions on extending, I believe he wanted a main and a hydrant up there too, so, but I haven't got his comments or he said he was gonna give me a red pen edit to the plan. And as
Okay.
soon as I get that, then I'll
Because
incorporate that.
we haven't gotten anything from him, right?
No,
Because,
Lou said he was preparing something, but I don't have.
okay, so we,
That's
so
okay,
we're
I
gonna.
mean, when I get it,
we
then I'll
wanna be
incorporate
getting
that
from
into the
him.
plans too.
Yep, and specifically to help the fire chief, we have a new fire chief, although it helps anybody. The why that you have for the turnaround, can you show on that, whether it's a detail, a separate exhibit, it doesn't matter, but show the turning template of his fire apparatus, his largest vehicle, which is that hook and ladder that they've got. And I don't know what the wheelbase is on that, but you'll have to verify that with him.
I'll call him and find out.
And so he can look at a graphic, and the graphic will show the traveling of the wheels of that the vehicle
I've
gets
done
in
that
and out.
before, so
Yep,
that's not a problem.
It's old stuff, yep. All right, so that was that, and then my comments on the plan, and then we'll just go through the waivers and see how the board feels on some of the waivers.
Excuse me.
Sheet 2 of 10, the surveyor's stamp. We're gonna need that. Sheet 4 of 10, I wish I had a pointer, but, where you have the expanded natural, your lower left-hand corner, the expanded natural infiltration area. Yep, the grading, and then you have some swale 92-90 contour coming into that. Down right below those swales there. And so those swales are cutting through what you're showing as existing vegetation to remain. So that vegetation will all be gone. So that needs to be actively edit to show what would be left. And then what's gonna happen is that's gonna open up the front of that property in its entirety to the public. So I'd ask you to consider some sort of perhaps evergreen tree planting in there.
Sure.
So that was one comment there.
There are a few
Small-
trees here, and we're looking at the trees that we located, we're trying to put the swale in between the trees
Yep.
on page 7. But I'll take a look at that, replantings as
Take a
well.
look at that, because those trees, and putting a swale in there, those trees are gone. So,
Okay.
check that out. Your driveways, could use radiuses on them as they intersect with your main drag. What is the symbol, that you show as like a, if you look at the septic system up top right-hand corner, there's this black line that's got a jog in it, goes around, it's in the woods. Is that like a silt fence or something? Okay. Can you label that silt fence and then also indicate?
Erosion barrier.
Oh, it's on page 1? Got it.
Proposed erosion barrier.
Very close. Okay, do you have a work limit line? So that would want to see a work limit line on it.
The edge of, what looks like the edge of trees here.
Yep.
Is what we're defining as the limit of work, okay, so,
Okay.
and I think I briefly explained before that the trees that are shown on sheet 7 are shown all around that area, and the ones that we're gonna try to save.
Yep.
Was survey located.
Yep.
And we're gonna try to save them.
Yep.
Plus any others, but those are the ones that we did locate around on sheet
Yep.
7.
So,
But the squiggle line is the limit of work area.
okay, so if you can add a note to the drawing that the squiggle line is the work limit area, and if you have a place where you have grading going up to the to the stone wall, so there is no tree line, you'd want to indicate that as the work limit line down at the road. Yeah, yep, there. So just want the work limit line to be clearly denoted. Is there any transformer with the project?
I'm not quite
If there is,
sure.
can you locate one?
Sure.
If there is, show it on the plan.
Transformer for house.
So-
Oh, transformer.
Um,
I would imagine so. I would think they're gonna have one
Okay.
outside.
Can you indicate snow storage at the end of this Y? And that's particularly, I'm surprised Peter didn't comment on that, because that's one of his concerns for where he ends up being stuck with these that he has to plow. So if you could,
His comment was, I'm happy, this is a private road, I don't have to plow it.
Oh, good point, good point.
So that's why you didn't really say too
That's
much
why,
about it.
thank you for reminding me.
But what he did say
Thanks
was,
for
which is
reminding
an
me.
important factor, he says, please don't show anything being built there.
Oh, the little utilities right up
Benefit
front.
of somebody who's gonna plow that, he says, it's so easy to plow straight in and work your way around to turn around.
So that dovetails nicely then to
Yeah,
show
yeah.
the snow storage area there. Okay. You have it looks like a 1-to-1 slope at that area that you grade up against the building, up against the stone wall,
Yeah,
and
look, we wanna get that as steep as we can, and we had to try to get the curve in
Yep.
that Larry recommended.
so all I'm just pointing out is that, so that's very steep, and you've got some challenging planting requirements, what we don't want to see, because this is going to be visible from the road, the public road, and that's what my concern is. And
Okay.
we don't want to be looking at a riprap, slope there with a stone
We
wall
could
at
do
the
some
end.
junipers or something that grows down the
I'll
slope.
leave that up to you, but the planting detail associated with that, planting on a steep slope is a different detail than a typical planting detail, which would want to see.
Okay.
The maintenance, stone wall, special conditions, somewhere, the maintenance, I think Larry had the comment about maintenance of the stormwater management systems that you've got in place. So somewhere, what the
I think I have
maintenance will
something on the
be.
details of that, but I
So-
can review that. and
So,
make sure.
when and who is responsible for that? When will it happen? Who's responsible for it? What's the mechanism to make sure that happens?
It would be the association, but I mean,
Yeah, and that's-
I'll make sure
And
that
that's where
gets
that
spelled
gets
out.
tied in. So it's planned. All right, that was that sheet. The tree plantings, when I look at sheet 5, the tree plantings up the street, maybe you could consider putting the water line in the road. It's just it's an top of the head question. So where the trees go, they have root systems that are gonna be not sitting on top of the utilities and the shoulders of the road. Just something to consider, how you're gonna get the trees in there with the utility lines that you have on both sides of the road. I'll leave that up to you. How you do that. Sorry, Tilly. I don't know if there's any opportunity when you come out your driveway, you're looking directly at map 10, lot 30, and I don't know if there's any room to have dialogue with that abutter there, in terms of headlights into their backyard. And sometimes works is a few evergreen plants on their property, and they say, boy, that's really nice, and it blocks the headlights and
Yeah, I'll
takes
check, but
care
they
of
do
them.
have a stone wall there that's up.
I knew there's one that goes around, that might do
How high
it.
it is, or
Yeah.
if it would block the.
And then sometimes they'll say, we don't want anything, but
Okay.
at least you've made the good neighbor effort. Headlights open to public, we usually talk about that. Any trees in public? Are there any trees in the public property portion of this out along Tenny Street that are coming down? I don't see any.
No,
Okay,
don't plan on taking anything.
okay. Have highway review and coordinate location with streetlight poles. Streetlight pole, you'd show that. Your plant list, needs a lot of work. Needs, a key, size of the plant, the roots, the crown, the qualities of the plant, the Latin names of the plant. The tree that you selected, the sunset maple, that's a rubrum, and it's not salt tolerant to street salt, and so if you're using a lot of salt there, it's not a good tree for that, so you need to just, but there are a lot of other trees that work fine with salt, so you need to pick another street tree for that. And then you have all these trees that you're showing that you're trying to save, and I guess I just would like you to give more thought to what you're showing. If you're gonna show it as one you're gonna save or try to save, that you then show how you're gonna try to save it. Because what I'm seeing is a tree and I see a contour cutting right beside it. And as soon as I see that, I know half the roots have been cut. So if you're gonna try to save it, which I think is great, I commend you for trying to do that, to at least show how you're gonna actually save it versus just showing the symbol beside new grading. you're,
closely do we get held to that tree plan, as far as the existing trees? Because I saw one or two, just by looking in that detention area, that I had the same concern over.
Yeah.
Are we better off if we think that that tree is gonna get compromised because of grading, to just take it off the plan in that respect, or? Because I know, it seems to me that every time I try to save a nice tree that's in a questionable location, you know, even if it is saved, it seems to suffer down the road a little bit.
this is where it takes time, and the board, you know, can't force you to do anything like this, and this is where it just takes time and due diligence. But if you saw one of those trees and it was truly a beautiful tree, that standing alone was gonna look really nice and was healthy, and you did have some grading that was gonna cut some roots, oftentimes there's some tweaks you can do to the plan to save the tree by
We do
grading
all, like I
different
said, we do
or
all we
small
can to try to
retaining.
save these, and that's
Right.
what we did. We located all of these trees.
Yeah.
And the ones that we will try to save as
Yeah.
many as we can. I know there's some that are cutting through, like in this area here, that we won't be able to save.
So if you're looking at your plan and you see some that you definitely, there's some, in other words, I see in here that you definitely can't save, and I would get rid of those. But if there's some that are close, you know, see if you can tweak the plan and provide a
A lot of
detailed
times we
solution.
wouldn't know until we actually get out there and do the work. And working with the contractor and the builder, because if it winds up being a tree with roots that extend a lot further than what we
We'll
see,
see.
then maybe we can work the grade around. I can work with the town engineer and say, maybe we can widen out the detention area on one side just to save the tree on this side. So that's
Well,
what I'm getting
and-
at.
Yep, and this is where I know a lot of, I know there's some people that don't give a lot of import to trees, but in the end, these big trees that are in the town are really all we have. It's not the shrubs we see.
It's a long time to replace
It's
them.
the big trees, and they're not for us, they're for the future. And,
And I think it's
if-
important too, with this development, the people that live there want to save as many of the trees here as possible.
Absolutely, but to your point, if there's a tree that's a quality tree, what you need to, and maybe you engage an LA to help you with this, I don't know, but so the roots aren't going to go out past the crown. That's typically where the drip line is, and that's where the roots are gonna end up. And so if you know that, and you know the tree that you wanna try to save, you now have the area that you wanna save, and then it becomes where you put in some construction fencing at the drip line to ensure that you don't get vehicles stockpiling, driving over it, compacting the roots, whatever. That is the only way you're gonna save the tree. To do it in the field after the drawings are done, it won't work. It just doesn't work. So commend you for trying to save them. If there's some that you want, just make sure you've got one on the plan to truly save them.
Great.
Your treatment swale detail, I think the seed needs to be identified as to what it is. Maybe it's there and I don't see it, but that was one. If it is, great. And your seeding detail, your seed mixture has bird foot trefoil. And actually in some states that's an invasive species. And what it'll do is it forms a pretty heavy mat and it'll kill your regular grass. So you want to get a different grass seed than you have there. I think that was it. And so then we have the waivers. If, we'll just. I'm only going to this because I have some of my own here. Okay, waivers. So the board has the waivers in front of them, and, you know, maybe we can give them a sense of where the board is with waivers. The first one is title block, modification of the title block. I didn't have any problems with that. So that one was okay. Waiver, second one, application granting street name in pencil, that's fine. That's old hat. It's not done anymore. The applicant is requesting board to grant a waiver, subject to highway bound located. I didn't fully understand that, but I'm not a fan of, can you explain that one?
Well, regulations require a bound with a disc on it to be placed.
Okay.
For a monument.
Yep.
An elevation.
Yep.
There's a hydrant across the street. When this project was done, they're tied into the USGS elevation. We transferred that
Okay.
to a bound that's out on the street. So one of these bounds that are on the street have that as a benchmark.
Do you
It's a
have?
permanent structure benchmark.
So the bound that you're referencing, this one is the hydrant with, across the street?
There was an elevation on that from when they did the intersection that tied into USGS. And that's what we're referring to, and our contours are based on that.
Okay.
So,
okay.
but your regulation it says specifically place a bound with a disc on it.
Yeah.
And I didn't know if that was necessary, if we can just use what we have already on the site that's existing and stable.
I think then for that one, I'm gonna advocate to Larry Graham's comment on that. I'm not sure what he says about that, but, so that'd be a Larry Graham, whatever he's feeling about that. Existing sidewalk, I think I heard people saying yes to an existing to adding the sidewalk.
Adding
the sidewalk.
We're showing the extension of a sidewalk which ends here.
Yep.
Right there, extending it here.
Yep.
And just didn't know if we were asking for a waiver from the sidewalk going up the side,
Yep.
so.
And I think, I heard Bob say he thought it was a good idea. I'm thinking it's a good idea, Matt, so sounds like there'd be no on that one.
Can I just, I mean, do you mind if was there a particular reason why you didn't want to do sidewalks, or was it?
It just is the type of thing that, some of these, there's gonna be no extension to this road. It's a short road, not much traffic. Whoever's driving on there, they're not gonna drive more than, probably 4 or 5 miles an hour, 10 miles an hour at the most, I don't know, but, if there's a sidewalk there, kids that are riding their bicycle, they're gonna probably ride in the street, wheeling baby carriages, I mean, without anybody around, a narrow sidewalk. I just thought that it just kind of depends, the private road, and whether the association wants to maintain a sidewalk and plow a sidewalk. I don't know, I just didn't know what the board felt about this, and whether you felt as though, oh, yes, we definitely need one, or in a case like this, maybe it's not necessary where it's such a short lane.
I for one think it's just a basic, health, safety, welfare issue that
Why are you doing a private road? Did you already explain that? Why are you doing a private road?
Why?
Yeah.
I don't have an answer for that right now, but it's a lane, and we just thought it would be.
So you could come back with an answer.
Essentially in the lane and court regulations.
Yeah.
And that's why we went that route.
Yeah.
Pardon?
It's in the lane and court regulation that you folks have, and that's why we went that route as opposed to.
They aren't always the most peaceful that people move into.
So
We have a lot of conflict with it, so.
Your next waiver request was the gradient request with the road, and that's a Larry Graham call. Whatever he says is gonna be fine with myself, and I suspect the rest of the board.
I don't need to go into explain that one.
Yeah, no, that one's Larry Graham. Existing topo, reduced vertical curve, that's also a Larry Graham call. Whatever he says is probably gonna be fine with the board. And if I say something, board, that you don't agree with, please pop in, I'm just trying to move it. Next one you have the existing Y turnaround, versus the cul-de-sac. As long as you can convince the fire chief that you've got that working, you're gonna probably be fine. That's much better than a cul-de-sac. Larry Graham's comment on the sloped granite curbing, I would agree with, except if you put a sidewalk in, you need vertical granite curbing for the sidewalk. It's not, the barrier for sloped is not the same as a curb, for safety issues. Not to mention the asphalt doesn't hold well for sidewalks going into the sloped granite curb. So part of it could be sloped, but the sidewalk would need straight faced.
Do you require the sidewalk to be up against the granite, or can
No,
it
it
be a
doesn't.
grass strip?
You could provide an
Could you do
esplanade.
Could you go slope granite and the grass
Yes,
strip?
yes.
And then the sidewalk?
Yes. If you can pull that off and still maintain the quality of the site, I think that's actually more residential in feel. If I had a magic wand, I wouldn't put straight face granite in. The only reason I'm saying you do is because you have a sidewalk butted up against it, but if you don't, you don't need to.
Okay. Take a look at that.
Proposed lane has offset as much as possible. That's also up to Larry, the offset. Applicant is requesting 3 foot of cover over pipes, that's also a Larry Graham, technical review agent. Optimum cover, 2 6-inch pipes, that's a Larry Graham, technical review agent. Those are the waivers.
Keep going.
That's it.
Thank you for taking the time to go through that, I appreciate that.
Thanks a lot, gentlemen.
It gives us some direction to go through, appreciate that.
Thank you.
Quick question.
Please.
The sidewalk tree, the street trees.
Yep.
Do they need to be planted within the right of way, or could we locate those on the lot to avoid, some of that salt contamination and whatnot?
You could absolutely locate them on the lot, but I don't know how you work that out with the people who are buying the lot, that then they can't go cut that tree down the day they buy the lot. So there's that issue involved. And if the tree dies within the first year of that guarantee period, that there's an easement that allows a contractor to go in to replace it. But
My biggest concern is naturally with the slope granite and the grass strip and the sidewalk.
Yep.
Then that
Spread it in there.
doesn't give us much room for a
If you
tree.
spread it-
So that is, if we can, move that around a little bit and,
I
work for everybody and get it off the water line, and I think
if I had a magic wand, I would provide for a temporary construction access to a tree on individual properties, when that would go along with their deeds if they can't cut it down. You take it down if it's sick or dying, but anybody would like a tree in their front yard.
Yeah. Okay,
All
very
right,
good.
thank you.
Thank you.
Right. So, can someone buzz? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, we need to continue this, right?
Yes.
So, I guess, what's not 2 weeks from now, a month from now, how's that agenda? Can we continue to, not the next planning board meeting, but the second one, and that'll give you plenty of time to take these comments, respond to Larry, get him to respond back to us in time for that meeting? Okay, so whatever that date would be?
You the first one in April?
13th.
It is Lou the only department head that hasn't responded?
Lou and the fire chief. Fire chief?
No, the fire chief did, but it was just that letter that, was pointing out
I
the,
need to talk to him about the turning radius and stuff like that.
yeah, yeah.
But Lou, we really need Lou to get that water main designed properly.
And we have time on this.
What is this?
And,
Oh, timing wise?
yeah, there's no problem with extending it out a month.
That's a good question.
Is
there a preliminary
April
file?
13th.
Board members?
Is there a preliminary plan filed?
I don't know. When was this
February
filed?
3rd is what I have here in this one.
The definitive plan?
Was
Got
there
it
a
on the-
preliminary filed?
Hey, Andrea, do you,
Dennis, did
can
we
you
actually
tell us
file the
when we
preliminary?
filed
We filed the
this, when this was
preliminary one.
filed with us?
We did file the preliminary, didn't we?
Yeah, that
Yeah,
was back
but
in
that was-
November and we met in December.
Yeah. Then we,
90 days.
It doesn't say preliminary, that's.
So Andrea's gonna confirm right now the time.
They indicated they did file, and the board considered a preliminary plan and gave them a ruling on that. So
Yeah.
this is
We
then the
did.
definitive, which means you get 90 days from
February.
3rd.
With the town clerk.
February 4th was when
I'm
Andrea's.
sorry, 2/4, yeah, 2/4.
that was the definitive plan.
Timeline
That
depends
was
on the fact that they
definitive,
did file a preliminary, you acted on it. Now they're back with
And we have 90
90
days,
days.
so we've got plenty of time.
Agree.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we continue the public hearing on Palmer Lane to April 13th, 2016 at 7:15.
Second?
Second.
Second.
So motion's been made and has been seconded to continue the public hearing for Palmer Lane to April 13th, 2016. Any discussion? No discussion, all in favor? Aye. Unanimous, one absent.
Thank you.
Thanks a
very
lot.
much. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Did they sign
I
it?
want to make a note that for your file though, that on May 2nd is your 90th day on this. You're not going to have a lot of time after that April 13th meeting.
Okay. Can you please make a note to remind all of us that May 2nd is our 90-day cutoff? So April,
We can just ask for continuance, right?
when we get there, yeah. But it's just a particular to
Okay, yeah,
remind
no
us all.
problem.
All right, so that was
Good night.
that.
Good evening.
Good night. That was that. That was that. Spirit Sorry. Sorry.
I had no idea there was so much
There you go.
to it.
Okay, so, moving on, we have no old business, we have no new business. We go to planning office, we have meeting minutes, just a real quick update. Andrea's working on 24 hours per week schedule, doing one hell of a job. She is shooting to have a catch-up with the three meetings in their draft form for our next meeting, which is pretty amazing. Wouldn't include this, but, so that's just an update on meeting minutes, what's going on with that. So now going into the discussion of Bailey Lane. Basically, I guess, what I'd like to say is that my understanding, after talking with town council, is that we are, John, jump in if I'm saying something that's incorrect, we are here to basically sign a denial for the OSRD that was submitted. And if the board has any questions about this, for sure, we can talk about that, but I think that's sort of the punchline.
Your period of time for filing your decision, which comes from your bylaw. Bylaw mandated, expires, I've been told, on Friday. So that's the date the decision has to be filed, which means it would have to be voted on by the board and signed at this meeting.
But we don't have a choice, right? We have to sign this at this point, right?
Well, what you choose to sign depends on what you vote, but if you don't want it, a claim that this has been approved by your failure to act, you have to file something. Either yes or no, you have to file the decision by Friday.
Did you want to have any discussion about the majority vote issue and what we voted on, just for people being comfortable?
So Bob can't vote.
Bob cannot vote, correct.
And Harry, you have no intention on changing anything that you've decided?
Not at all.
Well, then I guess that includes discussion on that.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So, with that, I'm looking for a form that I know Andrea already gave me. Thanks, buddy. There it is.
And the language that's in here, John, you've seen?
Yeah.
So it's,
And is there a benefit to it being this detailed in it? Or,
all right.
I mean, can we just say we deny because we deny, or do we have to spell it out in this level of detail?
State law and to a certain extent your own bylaw require that you provide reasons for your decision. So in this case, you have one negative vote, essentially it'd be the one member providing a reason for his vote. Technically, you could file a decision with no reasons. You risk on an appeal that a court would send it back to you and say you're required to attach reasons, but courts are a little more lenient with denials without reasons as opposed to grants without reasons. So that's an option, but I think Harry and I've had a little discussion just about whether he would be willing to provide a reason. I think he has a draft. I think that's what's in the packet.
So I hate to be a stickler,
Don't
particularly
worry, don't worry.
1020, but
Don't worry.
my problem is I'm being asked to sign this for Harry's reasons, and I mean, they're Harry's reasons and they're perfectly valid reasons, but I don't agree with them. So that's my problem.
So these reasons are for the denial. These reasons are for his denial. You're not, you're signing as a vote in the affirmative. You're not approving his, you affirm the project, which I'm like you, I voted for it.
Right.
And my signature does not mean that I'm in support of the denial, because I didn't, this is all Harry. Is that?
Yeah,
think
that's
you both supposed to
essentially
feel that
correct,
way.
right?
And
Yeah,
that's
you
one of
can't
the
endorse, because you didn't,
Right.
those aren't your reasons, you
Yeah.
can't endorse them.
That's why I said the single nay vote, which caused a special variance,
Yep.
not chief. And thus denied was based on this. That's why I tried to point it out, that it was the single vote.
Okay.
So, if the board would like, there's, you know, I can read in the denial that, John worked on with Harry, or just, I'll pass this around and we can sign it. It's up to you folks.
Just one area, I did bracket some information in that draft there that,
He did take a look.
for you to select, I think you need, there's just, it's not final the way it's submitted.
Oh. So due to the constraints of the site, and then you add in parentheses, wetlands, ledge, size of site, et cetera.
Just, based on your knowledge of the plan, are there particular characteristics of the site that would serve as a basis for that explanation for your vote?
Can we take, if one of these works for the basis of his vote or another one, can we handwrite this in, John, tonight on this document and sign this document?
Oh, sure, you can.
Okay.
Handwrite, yeah, it doesn't have to be typed necessarily. no.
All right. So I don't,
I think you must strike wetlands, there are none on the property.
okay?
Which,
This is up to
which
Harry.
denial? Oh, it's up to Harry?
Yeah,
Yeah,
this
I
is his
think the
denial.
vote's fine.
You don't,
This is the
wait,
second
so you,
version of it.
you're not looking, yeah, so you have,
Okay, thanks.
which one is this, Tilly? Yeah, go, this is in,
I think I need to pass out the second version, which is what we're working on.
okay, so this is the one we're looking at right now, okay?
Oh, okay.
So if you flip over to the next page, this is the paragraph, that right now, these are the reasons that Harry's just identifying which one or several for his denial.
I mean, again, I haven't looked at the plan, but based on what you had told me, it's probably size of the site. Essentially, you're saying 3-5 lots, the benefit to the town is gonna be the same.
I'll go with size.
Wanna go with that?
Yeah, crossover ledge.
All right. Size
Should
of
work.
site. Okay,
And et cetera, obviously.
I got rid of et cetera. So it says due to the constraints of the site, due to the constraints of the site, in parentheses, size of site, the proposed OSRD will not achieve greater flexibility and creativity in the design of residential development than a conventional development plan. So, you sure you wanna stay with that, Harry?
What's
He
that?
already,
My vote?
at our
The
meeting,
denial?
when the
All right.
decision, the vote was taken, he already explained why. So doesn't that have to be in the decision?
Well, it wasn't in the decision at all until literally, this morning
now.
when Harry drafted
Clock
this.
this morning.
Well, I think what
And that's what
Tilly,
you see
I
now.
think what Tilly's, what you're asking, that the reason he gave for the denial at the meeting,
Doesn't that have to be word for word what the decision?
No.
No.
So-
He can give an explanation for his vote at the meeting,
Yeah.
but then he can certainly reduce that in a manner that's not exact to a reason in the decision.
Okay. Okay. Well, it had, certainly had to do with the affordable housing requirement in the bylaw.
Right, which is, I think,
which is,
I tried to summarize it
which
as
is,
best I could. Tilly.
which is in here.
I tried to summarize it into words the best I could.
I mean, the approval of a special permit in this case would have the effect of creating 5 new units without a compensatory addition of affordable housing, thus depreciating the affordable housing inventory. So that was
Harry's
his vote, that
language
was his.
there.
That was his vote, but
Yeah.
did you confirm that is true in the bylaw? Because that was the issue with me.
Oh, this is the 5 lot versus 3 lot inconsistency.
Because it has or in it in the density bonus section. That
You know-
was the whole,
yeah, Harry explained to me that the differences between the two provisions of the bylaw were not, he was not voting, and you can confirm this obviously, but not voting because he thought that one was being misinterpreted or one was wrong. He was just saying, I don't think that this particular application should get the benefit of that exemption that it gets from the inclusionary housing bylaw, which is 5 units or less. So I think he's saying, I agree, 5 units or less is the exemption that applies, but I don't think this project should be approved and benefit from that exemption.
That's where I'm asking you now. Is that true? When I read the interpretation of that bylaw, I didn't get that out of it. And he did, and that's why he voted that way.
So
That's what I wanted cleared up.
So the section in particular that I think.
Density bonus, right there.
Correct. One of the problems here is that this language was not in the original bylaw. It was inserted by amendment in 2009.
Yeah.
It was inserted in this section, so where it says increases in permissible density, and then this is inserted in here, it's not really a correct description of what's happening here. It doesn't relate to the increases in density. It simply states that, read the language. And I didn't underline it, so let me make sure I've got it. Okay, here it is here. So it's in section 165-58, subsection A. Projects, it'd be the third sentence, projects of 5 or less approved units, parentheses, including the basic maximum number and all density bonus units.
That's where the problem was. That parenthesis.
Let me finish it.
All right.
Okay. Shall not be subject to the town of Georgetown inclusionary housing bylaw.
Right.
And then there should be another parentheses, 6 units or more shall be subject to 165-71, which is the same bylaw, and that's the end of the sentence.
Okay.
So that's a direct exclusion if there are 5 units proposed, that the requirements of the inclusionary zoning bylaw for provision of affordable units will not apply to this project. That's what that says.
So, it's your learned legal interpretation that Harry's right.
Well, Harry, I think, is saying
That they would- that would-
that's your interpretation.
That
I mean,
they
I
would not
haven't
need
heard
to
him
be,
say it.
that they would not need to make an affordable housing contribution.
That's the way I read this, correct?
I just won lunch, thank you.
I know you did, because I kept saying if it had "or" in there, that paragraph is all about density. So if the guy came in with 3 and he wanted to make another one, he would have to do one more. And that would be his 5, and then he didn't have to follow it.
Right.
But he's coming in with just 5.
Right, and, I
Period.
don't
No
know
density.
if the base yield is 3 and he got an increase in 2, I don't know, he just came
No,
in
he
with
didn't.
5, right?
It's irrelevant, 5 or fewer.
But I think what this says is it doesn't matter if he's asking for approval of 5 units under an OSRD, 5 or less, he's exempt.
So, with that being said, get a motion to
Which one did you
sign the Form D. Basically, it's just, filling out the denial for Bailey Lane.
The vote's technically already been made.
Vote-
That's a ministerial act. That could be done anytime, doesn't have to be done here.
Well, might as well do it here. I'd like to get it done. So,
You have to do it now.
yeah, so let's do it so that Andrea can take care of this and we don't have to come in for both of us to go other places.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
So you got, okay.
Do I sign this? Because
No, you don't.
I don't.
You do not.
My hands are clean.
Gagging a little bit, doesn't
I
sound
haven't
it?
been paying attention. Sure, okay.
There you go.
I'll visit you, Jim. No problem.
So this will conclude the discussion on Bailey Lane, which is great. Thank you, John.
This does need to be filed with the town clerk by Friday morning, based on the dates that we have.
Town clerk.
No.
Okay.
Send notice to the,
Thank you, Andy.
send notice to the applicant that it was filed. Need to send a decision to the applicant.
All right, and then we're going to the last planning office item, which is the Affordable Housing Trust fractional payment. And then we have a couple of,
Send me an email.
we have a Form J and a Form K in front of us. So I know, Matt, you were kind of,
I went to the Affordable Housing Trust meeting where Jill made a presentation on the fractional payment for the Lisa Lane project. Essentially, the fractional payment is the 0.2 amount of the payment for the affordable housing component. The developer has agreed to treat lots and, correct me if I'm wrong on this, and units that sell for less than $720,000 as selling at $720,000 for the calculation of the fractional payment. When we plug that into the calculator, it comes out to about $58,000.
Yeah, it's 57, 436, 36.
I think that's a terribly reasonable way to come up with the numbers for these, for this. The issue is we don't know exactly what the unit's gonna sell for clearly, and we can't know what the units are gonna sell for until they actually sell, but they can't wait for the units to sell to make the fractional payment. The $720,000 number seemed to both the trust and to me is a perfectly reasonable offer by the developer. I would recommend that we accept this as the fractional payment.
That sounds amazingly similar to how it was done at MR's Way.
great.
Don't we have the same problem?
I plugged it into the calculator. If by some, luck of theirs, I hope it works out for them, but if they all were to sell for $100,000 more, it amounts to approximately $3,000 more that the town would have been entitled to. It's really a de minimis amount, so.
Sounds
So,
good.
Yeah, they don't have to wait for a lot and all that hoo-ha.
So did you
That's
bring a
good.
check?
You have to accept it first.
So I,
Could have filled the
the,
Oh, yeah.
the trust made a motion, right?
They moved to recommend it to you, but that was it.
Do you happen to have the language, or?
Oh, goodness, no. I mean, I brought the formula, but
What of that can we use to vote on, per se?
I mean, you could accept the payment of 57,000 is the fractional payment, is how I would do it.
Give it to you, and if you could make the motion, Matt?
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion that we accept the sum from the developer of $57,436.36 as the developer's fractional payment on the Lisa Lane project.
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Motion has been made and seconded to accept the amount of $57,436.36 as fractional payment for Lisa Lane. Any discussion? No discussion, all in favor? Aye. So that takes care of that, and then, you just wanna,
It's just that, yeah, so the last time we were here, we just had we had the ability to release 2 more lots.
Yep.
And we don't know what they are yet, so now we have the next lot that we'll sell, which is lot 2.
Lot 2.
So I brought it to you.
so,
So you just need to sign
just
that
need to sign
form,
this.
okay?
Where's the signatures here? Majority of the planning board. Board wanna vote on these, or feel the need for that?
I think we have to vote.
I would think we have to vote to sign the Form K, right? Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to endorse the Form K, partial lease covenant for Lot 2 from Turning Leaf subdivision.
Second.
Motion's been made, seconded to sign Form K for the partial release of covenant for Lot 2 of Turning Leaf, Georgetown. Any discussion? No
Just a question, Mr. Chairman?
discussion?
Which,
Discussion.
how many lots will this make now for release, that we've released?
9?
9.
This is 9,
Yeah, we have 1 more. Well, but don't forget, I don't include 44, so,
not 44, so.
right, but I just didn't wanna misrepresent, so you have released 10 really after this, but that was 44-0, which is the one that I'm gonna transfer to the town.
So it's 9.
Yeah, I
understand.
You know what I mean?
I do.
Is the tripartite in effect? Has that all been signed off yet?
Yeah, we took care of
You have a
that.
copy of that?
Yep.
Okay.
I immediately, the next day I sent it over.
So, no more discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Unanimous. Let me pass this around.
Number, obviously.
And then we have Form J here, applicant's request for release of partial release of lost or deposit.
Oh, that's just, that's the form I have to submit so that you, in order to submit the Form K.
So that's just my signature.
Yep, that's just you, except, yeah.
Notary?
Thank you very much. Everybody, free act indeed? Right?
Totally.
Look, I even brought my
All right,
stamp tonight.
and
That's
here's,
okay. Done.
here's Form J.
Yep.
Set.
Oh, gosh.
And I think that takes care of business.
It does, thank you
Thanks
very much.
for waiting so late.
I played Sudoku.
And I think a member of public support, there is none, hopefully. If so, we can
Just
bring
a
it to the
quick
next
question,
meeting.
Mr. Chairman, just about the planner position that we were discussing earlier. Has anyone seen the job description on the town website?
I haven't looked.
I did, I never saw it before.
Yeah.
Who made that up?
Has this been reviewed by, who reviewed this?
I don't know, but I did question it with Mike, and he said that was done quite a while ago, for the personnel manual. I guess they were doing job descriptions. So he said that was done, he got it from you or Chris or, no?
All I know is, I mean, according to this on page 3 of it, the town planner writes and administers grants as assigned by the town administrator. I didn't know, I thought he was supposed to answer and write grants at the behest of the chair. That's interesting. If we could take just 2 minutes to follow up on the position. The last time we went through this with Howard, when Nick left, the board appointed a subcommittee to review all of the resumes that were received. And the subcommittee in closed doors reviewed all of it and then interviewed the applicants and came up with the 3 best candidates, which time then those 3 good candidates that were recommended by that subcommittee then came for a final interview, final interviews in front of the board in a public meeting. And then the board chose the planner. Is that how this process is gonna go? Because I remember seeing an email
That's my understanding.
and it said that we were only gonna get 2, but there's no subcommittee that I know of
We
that
haven't
reviewed.
we haven't put together a subcommittee, we haven't even seen any applications yet. So when,
But Rob, let me ask you, and I'm sorry to interrupt you.
no problem.
When you say "we," does that mean the planning board? Does that mean Mike? Does that mean?
What I'm assuming is gonna happen is when Mike gets a group of what he considers reasonably qualified, passes a certain level of qualifications, he's going to then say, okay, you've got enough to make it worth your time. And then we're gonna put together a committee, and we're gonna review the package he gives us, and we'll pick out the ones we think, and that we is that committee. So right now, it's waiting till, and I haven't talked with Mike, I have no idea where the applications are, I don't have any idea how many have come in. You know, and I strongly encourage any member who's seriously concerned about this to contact Mike and find out the answers himself. But I have all the confidence in the world that Mike is going to get us this information when it's ready, and then we'll get our board to select members from with the members will.
Well, I had one request when I talked to Mike, that, we didn't have a meeting to discuss the job description and what we wanna look for. And so I thought that should have been done, but it wasn't. But what I had said to him is that as far as I am concerned, I would like to see experience equivalent to degrees. Because I think this job, people could look beautiful on paper, but if they don't know the process, if they don't know the laws, they don't know the forms, that means that we have to train them. We have to teach them. And I think that held up a lot of progress. It delayed. The planner was checking with town council. It was expensive. And that was my thought, and I said, I would like to see all of the applications. You know, you pick the two that you feel is, meets the criteria. But as far as I'm concerned, I wanna look at someone that has had the experience, the hands-on, on a board like ours, and, you know, I think that would pay multitudes for us. You know?
Well, a couple of things come up for me about that. One, you've got to realize that the town of Georgetown, what they pay their town planner is in effect getting a part-time town planner.
Right.
So we have to put our expectations into the qualifications of this person at an appropriate level. Two, I don't want to micromanage Mike Farrell and just gathering applicants. And that's my understanding, that's all he's doing. He's just gathering as many of the applications as he can. And I am fully comfortable with him taking, I don't know how many he gets, and whittling it down to 10, 12, whatever. He's not gonna just give us 2, he's gonna whittle it down. He may give us all because he doesn't get very many.
He said
But
2, he told me 2.
That's all he's gotten.
No, he's gonna give us 2.
Oh, well.
Last time we did
then-
3.
So we can ask him for more than 2 if we want, when that time comes around.
And the subcommittee would be, they would do the first executive session with the meeting and the
Yeah.
interview and discussion.
Yeah.
And then our the selection from the committee would come forward, and that would be open.
Yeah.
When you finally make your decision.
Yeah.
Last time the subcommittee reviewed all of the resumes,
Oh, did they?
so
I
that,
wasn't
and I
on it.
mean, naturally work together, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe it's time to start the subcommittee so that they can contact Mike and find out and begin getting the back and forth on this. Maybe we can find out some answers, like where was it advertised?
Well, I
Things
think
such as
if
that.
we're gonna
They can
appoint a
report back.
subcommittee, I'll put that till the next meeting, not at 2011. We can
Thank
come up with a meeting then, committee then. And again, I don't understand if it's so important to you,
2 week delay.
Harry, why you don't talk to him yourself. What is,
Just
what
a
is?
member of the board, and
You-
that's something
And you
that
have
the
every
committee should
right,
do.
and you have every right to find out some answers.
I don't wanna
What is
insert
your-
myself into the process, Rob. I would never do such a thing.
Okay, so be it.
Starting now.
Starting now, when it suits him.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn, second. All right. All in favor, aye.
All right.